No audio.
All right, hey guys,
I'm going to take over for Austin. Let me just repeat everything he just
Okay,
said.
all right. Well, all the people in the thing hear me. Can we hear me now? Let me get some confirmation. I don't understand why it makes me add my audio to the stream when I'm talking into Zoom. Okay, apparently we're good now, thanks to Swale, who is not here but is commenting in the chat. Swale, you're welcome to join if you want, but we'll explain that in a second. He's also fine there. So let me start off. Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Survivor Maryland Generations at Quar reunion. Sorry to the players and hosts who already heard me give this entire spiel, but I'll keep it quick. We really want to get everyone together. It's been 10 days now to talk about the crazy day that was a week ago from Saturday. And, it was a day of incredible gameplay, incredible characters interacting from all 14 seasons and all three generations getting to see come together, which was really, touched me in the feels. And not only that, but we also had an incredibly meaningful and impactful day where, thanks to everyone here, as well as the community out there, we were able to raise over $9,000 through the fans, through the community, through our friends and family, and then with matching over $18,000. So props to everyone. You saw us silently clapping, but here we go again. Now you could actually hear what you're clapping for. It could have been literally anything. Like, great job, Paluque, you crushed it. So we're here. So this is going to be an informal night. We have a lot of the cast here already. More of them will be joining us over the time as it comes on. So I have questions. I have things to talk about and to ask. We're going to roughly go through the game chronologically and talk through everyone's experiences and let the players, settle their scores and hash it out and talk through things. But if you have questions for the players, for the hosts, for anyone, feel free to tee those up in the chat, and I will put those up on the screen and ask those as they come up, especially as they pertain to the rounds that we're talking about or the sort of types of things we're talking about. So starting with sort of the pre-merge dynamics and then going deeper into the game, but certainly talking about long-term things is great too. So that's the plan. Jack, we talked about this before, so I'll say it too. Jack's has been doing the official accounting of the fundraising and everything, and has been absolutely awesome in keeping everything organized on that. If you would still like to donate to any of the campaigns or any of the charities that you didn't get a chance to that day, or you're just inspired to do more, you are certainly welcome to via the GoFundMe or the Venmo. Both are still open. At least I think the GoFundMe, but certainly the Venmo still is open. So we still can keep that in our accounting, and we certainly are happy to keep matching that and even go over 20,000. So if you feel like doing that to support your faves, feel free, but already raised a lot of money for great causes. Okay, enough me. I'm trying not to talk much at all tonight, just to facilitate. So let me start off by talking to our beloved host, the greatest host in Survivor Maryland history with the hardest degree of difficulty in one day. It is JS. JS, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. If my Wi-Fi goes bad, I'm sorry. Guys, this is so much fun. I do eventually play on season 8, so you guys will get to see my game. But I've heard lots of rumors and great things of the Generation 3 people, and I got to see a lot of Generation 2, and got to watch Generation 1 on YouTube. So it was really fun to watch it all come together. The best of the best, as you guys got to see, and got to see how it all came out. And then the charity thing just blew my mind away. That was incredible. So, thank you, everyone. That was amazing.
Okay, I have to mute when we're not talking, apparently. So there's a lot going on.
I'm sorry, I muted you because there's an echo when you're unmuted.
I will pay attention to that now that I'm aware. Sorry, everyone. We're working through this. I don't know. Anyway, JS, you already had planned one of these about a month or two ago for Gen 2, and then you had this one. How did this meet or exceed, or it didn't go lower than your expectations? I already know that. So what was the experience of hosting this? Were you able to enjoy it? Was it a rush for you? How did you do this? Everyone wants to know.
Yeah, so this is super fun for me to do. I love creating challenges. Secrets out. I actually played a Matt Pavlovich Zoom game like 2 or 3 months ago. He's the host of Survivor Brooklyn and Survivor LA. And then I was like, this is easy to do. I can do this. And I copied a few of his challenges, created a few more, did some Survivor Maryland classics, and put the day together like that. Added in a bunch of idol twists. We did do a Generation 2 only game where Alex from season 6 won that. And on that night, actually Victoria messaged me, and she got to watch it, and she was like, "Can we all do this, please?" And so I was like, "Yep, you're right. We have to do it." And then also was like, "Okay, like let's broadcast it." And then someone else suggested the charity aspect, and then it became this whole big amazing thing. It definitely exceeded my expectations. It ran smoothly, and the players were just all amazing.
Okay, can you hear me through the different mic? I realize I have a mic. I forgot about that. Is it working?
I don't know.
We can all hear you.
Does it sound any different?
Oh, it sounds way better on the screen than it does here. Probably because it's not using your mic here.
Great. Okay. Well, anyway, I don't know what we were talking about. So JS. So
it went great.
Yeah, it certainly did go great. I think everyone realized that, and people were commenting all day that they were absolutely blown away by you being able to run it all, and certainly I was.
I may have gone back and watched every single comment on the YouTube stream, both streams, and like there were a few like, "Oh, this is great," and then Chris would be like, "JS is a genius," and I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, sure, amazing." Yeah, that was fun to see.
What were some of your favorite moments of hosting or running it from the day?
When people found the very hidden idols. When people played the idols, and there were a lot of every idol was played correctly, I think, except for Steve, sort of, but he was just kind of using it as a safety precaution. And then all the exciting tribals, there were so many. And watching Andy just suck, like that was really fun. And the drag lip sync was amazing. That was so great. That was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to do like really fun challenges over Zoom, I feel like. And I at least thought every challenge had something entertaining. I would imagine for the players, it was really fun to play in pretty much all of them. And the people watching along seemed to really enjoy them too. So props to the creative for you on that.
Thank you.
Let's go into the game a little bit, or why don't I turn it up real quick before I do want to like actually focus and talk on the players, but let's talk to Anders and Jack, and is Drew? Yeah, Drew's here too, real quick. The other hosts going on. Anders, you had 2 Gen 2s in the final 3. How did you feel about your babies? How did you feel about the day overall?
I was so happy for Gen 2. When I saw Gen 3 starting to get decimated, I was like, it's better not continue with Gen 2. I'm a very proud person, and I think every single person in Gen 2 is already a star in my eyes. So to lose Daniela and Doug early was like, this is a nightmare for me. But just to see Santi, Swale, Rue, and Katie do so well. Katie is Gen 2, remember that. It was truly incredible, and I'm so incredibly proud of Rue and Swale. I know it's hard to get to the end and not win, but I think they both played incredible games. I don't think there's a single moment where I felt anyone was playing a bad game. I don't feel like there was a single moment where I was unhappy with what was going on. I was like, this is truly the best Survivor game I've watched. I'm going to say it, better than Winners at War.
Wow, hot take from Durs. This will be a good segue into talking about the start of the game. So Jack and Drew, Gen 3 certainly wasn't the ideal outcome for the Gen. However, I feel like people came away being really excited about Gen 3 and the players in it. How did you feel?
Yeah. Sorry, my internet is also a little unstable right now, but it was a little bit disheartening to see Gen 3 and their pre-merge performance. I don't know how much of the blame you can actually put on the players themselves. I think there's a lot of scared players in the other gens, maybe because of the uncertainty, along with all the Gen 3 players, maybe being a little bit of an unknown quantity. But I was proud to see, the Gen 3 players that did make it further along in the game. Shout out Andy and Tulsi and Maddie J. But yeah, I think that we did get a good preview of how Gen 3 went, and I hope the fans enjoyed seeing a little sneak peek of our seasons.
And if anything, having a low bar, I feel like you all are just you wait, you're gonna get blown away when you get to see these players play their full games later on.
You're muted. You're muted.
No, he isn't.
No, I'm muted.
I see
Yeah,
a
no.
comment saying
JS is right.
Austin muted for us.
We're stacked here a little bit in the pre-merge as we kind of talked through that first, which as I was mocked for a little bit earlier, I did say basically that that basically means we have Gen 3 here. So welcome to Gen 3, although we have a few people from Gen 1 and 2 as well in the mix, and certainly Steve here to as someone who played throughout the entire game. So let's just start with Gen 3. From a broad perspective, and I don't know who wants to start this off. What happened? Like what went wrong?
Nice.
Andy happened.
I will not take credit for that.
He was stirring it up from that first tribal, trying to make it a 2-2-2 tie.
That would have been crazy though, wouldn't it?
And he was calling us out at like tribals left and right.
Yeah, that was a lot. I'm sorry, that was a lot. That's good.
I think that part of the
Chuck.
reason we started on the wrong side was we all had to go to tribal council that first time, and so the Gen 1 and Gen 2 players probably were just like, okay, they're off doing their own thing, they're already strategizing, let's just pick them off. So I don't know, that was just my short time.
Here's a question. The host, when you thought of that, who did you think was going to go tribal first?
So we actually discussed that, and I was considering scrapping it just because I thought Gen 1 was going to go first. And, I wanted, the audience was here to mainly watch Gen 1. And so I was like, well, I don't want to set them up for failure, but it's a really cool, fun twist that you get the generations interacting. So I really thought Gen 2 and Gen 3 would be like, let's team up. Let's get rid of Gen 1 because they have the charitable donations coming through and they are liked and they are, the big dogs and we know what their game is. But it was not that way. And I really agree with what Sean just said. I think that's exactly right. The whole entire rest of the game kind of was like, okay, let's all not align with Gen 3 right from the start. And so you guys did have that trouble from the very beginning when Gen 1 and Gen 2 basically all decided, hey, this is the direction we're going to go.
I honestly found Gen 2 as the deciding vote for that first tribal.
Totally.
Other hosts, definitely correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we all agreed or had a consensus on Gen 2 being in the strongest position going into the game, at least the night before when we were all discussing this. I was surprised to see that Gen 2 and 3 did not team up to try to kick out a Gen 1 on that first vote. If anyone in Gen 3 wants to speak to why they didn't try, or Gen 2, maybe it was more of a swing vote, I would love to hear an explanation.
I think it's hard because in these online versions of these games, you don't have the time to as a tribe to bond or have the pre-challenge, post-challenge, just chatting or grabbing lunch, whatever. And so going into the first tribal of the entire game, already scheming to get each other out, already puts you at such a disadvantage because you're already oh my God, especially with a contentious vote that was 2-2 or 3-2-1. I think it just puts already the bad vibes on, and at that point it's a bloodbath. So almost impossible to recover from trying to get a Gen 3 alliance going, at least in my eyes.
I think too that a lot of us in Gen 2, we already kind of knew everyone in Gen 1. So I had met pretty much everyone, whereas Gen 3, I know a lot of us haven't met those people too. So people use the pre-existing relationships I know to help them get further. And that was one thing, just right off the bat, it was something that people clung to.
I would agree with that. I feel like Andy called me out at one point asking what my game was like in my season because he didn't know me and I didn't know him. And so I feel like that same thing applies within ourselves because we didn't all know each other either.
Yeah, I think
one group actually sent Gen 2 in. Which one was that? No, one of the 6 groups sent in Gen 2.
I think that was my group with Swallow and Victoria.
Interesting. Okay, that's very interesting that you guys sent that Gen 2 in.
Yeah. I tried to persuade Gen 2 as well. I was thinking, I told Holly and Daniela, you got the Gen 2 is going to get minority vote here, so I want to just let the other tribes decide. And hopefully I was just going to put Gen 2 on the block.
Yeah, but hearing that, I just heard, "Hey, Daniela, let's put your generation in, just because they won't be targeted." Which I don't know. If you presented Gen, it also was weird because Doug's right. Like a lot of I can't speak for all Gen 2, but I knew more of Gen 1 than Gen 3, and I'm scareder of Gen 1 because of that. So especially being with Holly, who I love and I idolize, but I also have played games with her in orgs before, and it's ruined me because it can either make or break the whole game for me because she is so powerful. I was I can't even utter the word of possibility that I can say that her generation to be better. So I was okay, there's no if, ands, or buts. Sorry. So I feel that, at least for me, was a big part of it because I came in the game thinking just be friends with the big people and then you'll be fine. So that just meant Gen 3 wasn't really on my mind.
I think it was a really interesting point that I was watching back Andrews' stream today to see all the stuff I'd missed on that, and one of the tribals, Steve, you had said that this game is just so much off momentum from the last 2 rounds, and I feel that was such a hard part for Gen 3, where as soon as it started the ball rolling that way, it's just so easy to latch on that as you have such limited interaction with people. I did have a note, and this will probably open up a lot of the early votes discussion. So Andy, obviously you were a defining person of the pre-merge. I think that's safe to say. You walked in, and the first thing that we really heard you say in a breakout room before that tribal, I wrote it down today, was okay, I'm going to be honest. I'm playing Go Big or Go Home. I want to set the world on fire and see if I come out on top. So that was a very bold thing to say right away. What made you decide to go with that very openly? And then how did everybody else feel about that? You were safe, so that's one thing to say.
Yeah, that's true. I was safe. So the reason why I came so strong, at least in the first couple of votes, is I knew that a Gen 3 alliance would be so vulnerable and so delicate. And so trying to kind of appease everyone and play the nice game, and I when it comes to these games, I play the villain role, and I totally admit that, and I get it. You guys can hit me for it. But in my mind, it was better to ally myself with the Gen 1 players, or at least those kind of big figureheads, to try to direct the fire from the Gen 1 players towards other people, or at least be part of that kind of scheming group. It just so happened that I played with fire and I got burned, right? And I got voted out, which, fair enough. Hey, I totally admit that. It was close though. Almost made it through, but so that was the main reasoning there.
Tulsi and I were actually voting with you. That's what got me, was that
and rude too.
I did not understand why you did it.
I voted yellow when I said otherwise to keep you around.
I don't know why. I guess you guys did that, to be honest.
Wait, did what?
Because you were a big Gen 3 target.
Okay.
That's
why.
Keeping
as a shield?
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's true.
If they're going for Gen 3, they're going to want you before they're going to want me.
Yeah, fair.
Andy, how big did early immunity help your game?
What? I can't. You're kind of quiet for me.
Andy, how big did early immunity help your game?
Do you mean the idle play, or do you mean the
You were immune for the first 3 rounds or something stupid.
I would say a lot.
I don't remember.
I thought
in that first tribal of Gen 3, I knew everybody else besides you, and I would have voted you.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah,
Wait,
Gen 3. If Andy wasn't safe, would he have gone home?
100%.
Yes. Yes.
Not even a doubt in my mind.
I love it.
Just because he played and then immediately graduated and left.
Mic drop, yeah. Sean, so I'll ask you this, since you were the unfortunate title of being first boot. We obviously didn't really get to see a lot of your game. Did you have a long-term game plan, the master plan that was going to be Sean's vision of the world and how it went?
Oh yeah, I was going to vote everyone out. I was going to make it to the top. I was going to win and be the GOAT. But fortunately, Andy. I still blame it on Andy being immune, but I was taken out early. I actually had I had a teacup prepared so that if I was gonna go home, I was gonna like sip on my tea, and then I didn't realize that I was actually going home that first round, and so then it was sad. Wasted potential.
Sean, how did you end up turning the vote to Maddie instead of myself?
Yo, I was 100% going to vote for you, and then Maddie Berinsky came in the room and was like, we're voting for Maddie Jackson.
And literally, I watched that back, and I was like, Maddie B, like, really came for me so hard. Like, I did not, as far as I remember, I did not throw out Sean's name first in the breakout room with Nick M and Maddie B, because I didn't want to throw anyone out, and Maddie B was like, Sean, and then when I rewatched it, she was like, well, Maddie J was throwing your name out, and I was like, dang, like, I don't stand a chance.
There can only be one.
Oh yeah, I threw out Maddie J's name because I thought she was like the most dangerous player like going into the game, as an unknown from Gen 3, but also like having watched her play before. Like I've seen every single Gen 3 player play from being on crew and then playing like season 11. So like I was trying to like get it through that you more of like a snaky player, but like that's props to your game, and then you made it longer. So like you're definitely good.
You said I vote without rhyme or reason, and I was like, ouch. But I like the villain comment. I'll take it. It's fine. It's
Can we
true.
talk about how Maddie B, you had like a little sign next to your computer with all the players' names, and every round, every player would be like, Maddie B's scary. She has a list of the players' names up there.
Yeah, can I just say,
because of it.
I got fact checked on this when everyone was like, no, it was Daniela's notebook, which, like, yes, that was a separate thing. Yeah, I know there were two things with that. Yes, I know. Oh, also Katie has joined us. But no, Maddie B's list was also a thing.
Yeah, it was.
The list gate.
No, it was literally just a list of like the players' names and their seasons and when they played and what round they got voted out. I don't know. I thought I would forget people because I didn't know who they were. Like, so like I knew who Brian was, so I wrote everyone's name down.
I exaggerated that so hard because I knew you were seeming like sketchy to me. So I was like, she's like steaming, even though I knew it was just because you couldn't remember people's names.
No, because I totally did that. Looking. I just didn't want to scheme like I was like weird for looking off screen the whole time. So I was like, I have a list of people's names, which I like shouldn't have said, but then I did.
No, people could tell because you were like, yeah, so we could do that or this or it was hysterical. Yeah. I mean, I love you for it, but it was funny.
Let's go to the Fluke drag race round. First, we can't bury the lead. Daniela, how did it feel to slay so hard during that challenge?
No, my favorite part was like the second that the challenge was announced in my head, I was like, I don't give a fuck who's in my group. Like, I'm going to do this. We have no time and I'm a theater major. Like, it just makes sense. That being said, I was actually very scared because I know like in the history is that guys who do like dress really funny ends up being funnier because it's like, oh my God, this big guy is in like a tube top and it's just like funny because of the size and everything. So I was generally scared that like I'd be too much like on it versus like being funny about it. But no, I loved it. It was so fun, especially that song that was like 6 years ago, so many years ago, and the time that it came out, it was my anthem. So I was just so excited.
It's 2020, Daniela. We have a higher standard of drag now, so the lip syncs need to be crushed, and we're better than just, oh, it's funny to see someone dress up. So it was great to see you crush it. It was certainly a crazy vote that round, so I don't know who's. I guess we'll start with Tulsi because I think you were the kind of main target that round. How did it feel to get saved by Fluke?
Is it crazy if I said I knew she was going to give it to me?
No.
Because I knew she was going to give it to me.
How?
Why are you so confident?
I knew I was in trouble. She asked me like a little bit about me there, and like I was already playing up like, oh, I'm new, like I have the fewest connections when like I do know a handful of people, not that many people, not like Gen 1, but I knew people. And it's Feluke. She wanted to like fuck shit up. So if it was me, she was giving it to me.
Oh, I'm muted again. Okay, Nick M. You ended up We'll bypass Andy for a second because you still weren't even, Nick, the main target from that.
I was like plan 3 or plan 4 or something like that. So
yeah.
I happened to get 4 immunities in one round, and I was struggling at that point, so it was my time.
Well, I was going to ask, you did seem like you were struggling at that point. You had a lot of like hands in the head during that. Did you have a fun time playing? Was it too stressful? What was going on?
No, it was good. It was good. It was like, I was just like trying to think it's 11 people, and JS kept putting me in a room with Tulsi and Andy, my 2 targets. So yeah, Tulsi, if you were in my room, I would have targeted you because I knew they would have chosen between myself and yourself. So and JS kept putting me in the same room, and
it was random, y'all.
It was not random. That was bullshit.
Yes, it was.
So I was trying to develop a plan, and I was just like trying to think, okay, Tulsi's here, I can't say anything. Andy's here, I can't say anything.
Throwback to when you said to my face you weren't gonna let me go home and you had my back. Love you, Nick.
Yeah, I needed you for round 1. I was scared as hell round 1.
Nick, would you like to reveal anything?
I would like to reveal an idol from that second round. I watched it back and I'm like, well, I could have told Feluke I had a friend idol, and I could have told Feluke, I'm going to use my friend idol on Tulsi, but I want you to give me individual immunity. But I didn't have a friend idol. That's the only way I can see myself getting out of that.
That would have been really epic.
Oh my god.
She would have called for it. No offense.
Yeah, she doesn't like doing too much. So there's like a balance you have to strike. That's why Shubal lost her years ago. So going home, obviously early, not what you expected. What was your favorite moment from doing it? Nick, that was for you. You're muted, though.
Oh wait, what? I was reading the comments.
What was your favorite moment, Nick?
I was what do you mean, my major moment? Oh, I'm just happy to be here. Like, and if you're watching right now, please know that donations are still open and you can still donate. I personally raised money for Sunday Berquist. She was more Millennials versus Gen X. Awesome player. Venmo at Survivor-Maryland. That's why we did this, and that's why I want people to get away from it.
Anything else from that round we want to get to? I mean, it was certainly a wild and fun round, but
We're not going to talk about Andy almost poisoning himself.
What? Oh, with the Windex. Yeah, I mean, Andy, how did it feel to almost poison yourself? I don't know.
I actually think I did like a small squirt, but it was like on my cheek, so it's fine.
I watched it back and I was like, Andy was also slaying because that was very the comedy of a spray bottle as your microphone. I just found it really funny. So I was really happy when also the amount of times that you, me, and Chris synced up where we like did this at the exact moment. It was so fun. Sorry, it was great.
There were some great moments where you just watched the screen and the physical movement of it was pretty epic. Next we had a
hammer too.
The what?
Sorry, the hammer when she got a box or something. She got a hammer, just like start.
There was a great part of the stream where people were like, "Oh, please lick the hammer, Danielle. Please lick the hammer," and then they like manifested it, and it happened.
My boyfriend sanitized it beforehand so I could like actually lick it, and I was so happy.
I should also say, so I'm going through these rounds, but if you all who are not, even if you're not directly involved in it, if you have perspective on it, feel free to chime in, and also commenters, whatever. If you have questions as we're going through it, please do not hesitate. Maddie B, let's go to you. So if we talked about it was weird because after the drag race round, I was on stream with LeCompte, and we like out of the Gen 3 people, we thought you were in a really great spot, and then it just completely did not happen that way the next round. So what did you think happened?
Oh, I mean, I didn't think like as soon as we were going to tribal, I was like, oh no. Like after Nick M after the first Gen 3 vote, I didn't like catch on that it was like a Gen 3 like pick out. I thought that was just like what had to happen because it was the first round. But then like the Nick M vote happened, and I was like, oh, that is not good. And then we got to like the third round, and I was like, this is I knew I was a target just like not from like a threat perspective. I didn't think it was like a threat perspective at all. Just purely like we don't know her. She's Gen 3. So like going back, I should have. I guess I feel like the only way I could have like saved myself would have been to like target a Gen 3, but I didn't want to take out another Gen 3 player. So I thought that would be like detrimental to my game to take out the only people who might be willing to like form an alliance like later on. But it just was like a futile effort to try to take out like a Gen 1 player who's like obviously a bigger threat. It was like talking to like a giant and being like, do you want to go home? And like, obviously they're not going to go home. So it was just kind of like waiting for my funeral.
Well, you did make the most of your time where someone noted that you had, I think Jack said you had the most individual donors out of anyone. How did you motivate the masses to your support?
I had a 4 blurb text that I sent out to like every single person that I like regularly talk to, I guess. And I begged my brother to send in money too. And I thought there'd be an immunity from it. And I was like, I really need like any help I can get. So then I just like begged people, but I think I'm the youngest player that played in this thing. So like all my donations were like, I think probably like in the lower quadrant of amounts, but it was like so great that like all like my broke friends like donated anyway. Like we love them for that. So I just like a lot of harassment, I guess.
Did anyone have any other perspectives on the Maddie B vote?
I honestly think Maddie did one of the better jobs for motivating Gen 3 to like not vote off for Gen 3, but to vote off somebody else. I think she was trying to build momentum, it just wasn't there yet.
Also, during the Maddie B tribal was when Daniela's camera went down to her notes that Andy saw. So that was the time that happened while Maddie was getting voted out.
Okay, so before the actual thing, because I was really confused when that happened.
I'll come clean. So literally all I saw, Danielle, so you put down your laptop, right? And literally all I saw was my name and Doug's name, and I extrapolated to such an extent.
Yeah, I was mad. I was like, I put them down because other people were like, let's do Doug, or like, let's do Andy first and then Doug after. So I was like, okay, Doug first, then Andy. And afterwards I was like, that, you did not need to write that down. I should not.
I'm sorry, that was dirty, but like I saw it, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna take the chance.
I mean, you were right. Like, I was secretly going for you because I was laughing too because like I had a conversation where I like went, it was like you and Santi in the room, and I like turned to Santi and was like, yo, no hard feelings for last time. And like in my head I was like, is Andy gonna feel weird because I like didn't say that to him, because I definitely still have hard feelings from before. So in my head I was like, there's a reason that I didn't say that to you. So I couldn't have been, yeah.
It's amazing. That's awesome.
I see we also have Victoria and Chris and Katie had joined us in the meantime. So hello to all of you. We will certainly, I'm sure there will be some questions for all of you in the chat, and we're gonna jump around a little bit to Victoria at some point because we didn't talk about it enough that day that you were playing on Europe time. So props to you, and you are still on Europe time as far as I'm aware. So not that Europe time is all one big conglomerate, but whatever. Let's go to the next round. So it was the sequester inspired now or later twist, and a lot of, I think, interesting things to break down from this. So what did I have in my notes? We'll start. Let me start with Doug because I know you have to get out on the earlier side. Just generally speaking, you know, you played the Gen 2 game, and I know like you were one of like a big name there or whatever. So how did you feel entering this one? And did you think it was going well up to this round?
Yeah, I did. I knew probably the most people out of everyone that have played. So granted, that is a blessing because I had a relationship with a lot of the people, but also I've either like someone's voted me out, I voted someone out. So there's always something that it's like, oh, maybe there could be like something where people want to vote me out because they're scared of me from whatever reason that may be. So, but overall, I thought it was fine. But then as soon as I heard Andy say that he saw my name, and then everyone started telling me, like, your name's coming up, it's coming up, around the now or later vote, I wasn't going to vote. I was just going to wait and hold it out for the next one. But then I was too stressed, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be bad. And I thought by the round that I did get out, I thought we almost had it to get Brian out, but then there's like one extra vote for me. So it was an unfortunate way to go out because I had no challenge that round and no votes. I really was sitting duck at that point. But
you had a power that we talked about a little bit on the stream, but you had one in the, I don't even remember the envelopes or something from the T-shirt.
The T-shirt challenge.
You had a co-host power, which meant that you could basically do what me and Anders were doing and bounce between the rooms. Did you think about using that at all, or?
Mine, it was I could choose the initial rooms before JS told me, and I could kind of just organize who went where. So I didn't want to use that because I thought it was just gonna like show my cards basically. So I didn't think that it would be beneficial, and there was nothing that I felt like I could have done unless it was super late in the game where I could just force myself into a majority room.
Did anyone I was confused as to why Doug ended up going over, like how he got more votes than like Andy that round or something. Does anyone have a perspective on that?
So basically what happened was it was the first round before it was Andy and Danielle, I think. Was that the first of that?
Yeah, Danielle was the first.
And me, Holly, Brian, Tulsi, and Steve ended up in the last group as the 5. We were like, has anyone heard any of our names? And everyone's like, no. So like we were pretty sure it wasn't going to be us 5. So all 5 of us were just like, all right, we're going to save our votes and then vote the second time. And we just landed on Doug. You're just the unlucky choice.
No, poor Doug.
The earlier one though.
The what?
I said I was going to vote in the second one to that group, but I did vote in the earlier one. I did vote now.
Thank you.
Yeah, to say Andy was great for my game.
Wait, who actually had votes the second round? Because I remember everyone in the discussion was like, I still have my vote.
Andy, did you have 2? Because you told me you. Okay.
So it was Maddie, J, Santi, Victoria, and then was there one other person? Oh, and Holly.
Votes because he stole who was it?
Katie's, yeah.
So you voted once in the first round, yeah, and then one in the second round.
Yeah, I will say I was a little bit mad at Santi. No shade, but like you had just said, yo, Andy, I'm going for you. He just stole Katie's vote. And like in my head, I'm like, okay, Santi's gonna vote then to get Andy because like he knows that Andy has 2 votes and you just publicly said that you were against him. So he probably is gonna put those 2 votes and like get you out somehow. So then you like didn't vote for him. I was like, that was like the one vote that could have tied it and like could have helped me. But thanks for not voting.
Yeah, so say for both the now and the later. And so after me, Swale, and Tulsi won the challenge, we basically agreed that we were going to hold our votes. Obviously, Tulsi didn't do that. And so I went in thinking that Tulsi and Swale still had the vote and that we were going to vote together for the second one. So I was like, I'm going to throw Andy's name out there, see if it gets traction. If he gets voted out, great. But either way, I'll still have my vote and hopefully have a lot of power with Tulsi and Swale to all vote together on the second round. So I did want Andy gone, but I wanted to stick to that and have all the power for the later round.
Bad enough.
So who
I got so lucky thinking back. Oh my god.
Who else voted Daniela over Andy, and why?
I think it was Steve, Rue, and then Andy. Oh, and then Doug.
I wasn't gonna do it until I heard that my name was written down on your notebook.
I'm actually really mad. Like because the fact that I got taken out by myself because my fucking notebook, like that's so in my head, I was like, oh, it's great. Like I literally went to Andy. I was like, hey, Andy, your name is coming up. Not saying that like I'm the one that was like, hey, Andy's really scary of Gen 3. We should probably go for him. And like the previous room I was in. So when I went out, I was like, okay, Andy's a god. I don't know how the fuck he knew that like it was me. And then here's my notebook, and I'm like, okay, no one's a god. I'm just a dumbass.
Anything else with those 2 rounds in particular? I know it was a pretty interesting strategic round, but probably, I'm sure, tough for everyone to play.
I mean, I had safety that round, so I wasn't really worried about like that mess. And I did tell everybody I was voting the second time. Everyone told me that. I think everyone who told me that did stick to that. So like, I figured throwing that one vote for Daniela would have been just fine. Andy's name came up almost every single round. I figured people would go for him more often. He's a great Gen 3 shield for me until he called me out at Tribal. But we'll get to that, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, we can transition into next round unless someone else has anything to add.
I have one last thing.
Yes.
She's not here, but I was also confused because like there was something that the friend idol that y'all got like the next round or like the next thing. It was like Andy and Rue were in a room, and Andy immediately just goes, "Yeah, Rue has an idol, just so you know." And her face just goes like, "Why did you just say that?" So for her to like stick with you and like help vote with you after that, I was like, this doesn't make sense. Like, because I guess nobody's seen you, but and that's why I was so mad. Because I was like, if I could only say the things that I have feelings about you.
Love that. Yeah, that's actually one of the biggest question marks is why did Rue, even after I called her out, like literally the first room after we used the friend idol, I say, hey, by the way, Rue she said something like, oh, like, yeah, it was just like Jordan and Andy who got the idols. I'm like, nah, Rue's full of shit. Like, she has an idol too. And she still votes in that. Yeah, that was crazy. I mean, I appreciate it, obviously.
Yeah, Rue should be joining soon, and we will have to ask her. I don't know if anyone knows why she did that. The great mystery. Okay, cool. So Tulsi, you mentioned talking about the next round. So just a general question for you. So you were like very popular, like coming into the game out of a Gen 3, like having some awareness in the community. And obviously I think it speaks for itself. Like you're a really fun personality and fun player. But like immediately you were in danger for multiple rounds, it seemed like. Why do you think that was?
I mean, they were going for Gen 3. In that first room with Steve and Santi, they were right. Like, I wasn't going to be a target that first round, but then that, like, messed up the rest of the game. I ended up being safe for 4 consecutive rounds, though. And I, like, tried to do what I could in that time because I had Feluke save me. Then I won the T-shirt one. And then Santi, Swale, and I all got the now and later immunities. And I feel like my name didn't come up as much then, so I was hoping I could like ride that momentum a little longer. But there was only a few of us Gen 3 left, and we were gonna go.
I think it was, no, I actually remember we were in a room, me, you, and like 2 other people. And it was definitely me, you, Santi, and someone else. And we were like, oh, we're going to tell the other breakout room that we're going for Santi. And as we were moving to the other breakout room, I was like, wait, that doesn't make any sense, because if we tell Andy we're doing Santi and we're actually doing Andy, Andy's going to realize that we wouldn't have said that in the room with Santi. And I didn't have time to say anything or like come up with it. And then Tulsi said it and I was like, I didn't say it. And then Andy just came at you and you were dead. And so it was really sad.
The one thing I wish I did differently, like after that point, was at Tribal, after he called me out, just to be like just put it back on him and reiterate to, I think Santi voted with me for Shubal, but Steve and you both voted for Andy, thinking maybe that's what I was gonna do. I'm not really sure what happened that round because it ended up being 4-2-2. But if I could have just gotten us all to put it on Shubal, being like, I'm doing whatever I told my first room I was doing. And if you guys want to stick with Andy and keep his chaotic ass around, go ahead and do it. But if not, you know what to do. And then try to make it 4-3-1 at least.
This was also the round I feel like we should talk about. This was the werewolf round, right?
No, wait. I have one more thing before we get to werewolf.
Oh, go ahead.
Andy, why did you steal Katie On's vote? I felt like there were many other people in the game that was a bigger enemy for you, and by pissing off Katie, you pissed off all of her allies. So what was your rationale there?
Yeah, so my rationale is I know where my enemies' votes are going. And so still, even though like obviously that's a certainty, right? You still vote for them, then you know that vote won't go towards you. but I wanted to guarantee that a neutral vote was going to be in my favor, right? And that was Katie. Katie was still like such a big question mark for me that I knew that like people like Santi, like Swale, like Daniela were going to go gun after me the first round. So like, okay, at least I know there's like probably going to be 3 votes after me. And so let me make sure that I can steal another vote that I'm unsure of, that I don't trust, that I can still probably mend the relationship after, which I don't know if I did, Katie. Maybe we're really pissed. I don't know. And my defense after would be say, hey, Katie, I know you were in danger because I haven't heard your name at all. And so that's why I stole your vote, because you didn't feel vulnerable in those 2 rounds. So that was the reasoning, was to be able to go back to Katie and say, hey, listen, I did this, but like we're still good, right? I don't know if that worked, but
that's a super interesting strategy. I feel like you should go for someone you know definitely is against you, because you're not going to have their vote. So like, why would you take a neutral? Because you could have convinced me when I had my vote, you know?
Yeah, but like, I guess it's like, I'd rather deal with a known threat than an unknown threat. And for me, like having that like question mark is just like way, and I also thought you would have the most donations because you were posting all over social media. I thought you were going to get some sort of, I mean, you got like.
That's so funny you say that, because at the time I had only texted 3 friends and I posted on Facebook the morning of the of the game. And that was like, just like, you know, like I felt like for all the fundraising and, you know, social media advertising we did, like that's the least I could do is like try to share the word. But I get like 10 likes on all my Facebook posts. So I like had 0 hopes of getting donations.
Okay, maybe I miscalculated then. I don't know.
Yeah, that was the wrong move. Like really, really the wrong move, I thought. Like you should have called like Santi or Daniela.
Yeah, it was like Santi literally just outed you and like publicly, and then you took my votes. I was so scared I was going home in those rounds. So I was like, I'm powerless. I'm just like over here like begging people now.
Katie, were you gonna vote now or later?
No, I was gonna vote later because I felt like most people would vote like first. So I think I had a plan with a group of people to go. I think it was Tulsi, Santi, and Daniela or Maddie J. Yeah, we said Andy, then Doug. And then when Andy called out like the whole Andy Doug, when Daniela knew, I was like, oh, that's interesting. Then like somehow it was partly true, even if Andy lied about it saying Target, because there was a plan in place for that.
Yeah, I always get mad by like now or later things because people feel the urge to like lie a little bit, like, oh, I can't share even with my allies what I'm doing because like it's such a like who's gonna spill the information and then take advantage of the knowing what actually is gonna happen. So people are either like forthcoming, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, like forthcoming or like say it then change their minds, then don't say that they changed their minds, or don't say it because they want to keep it, or like all this, like I'm someone that like wants to just be like, okay guys, like who in the room is gonna vote, like just raise your hand because like I want to calculate what's gonna happen. And like I was mad because like Santi called out Andy, so I thought like he was now Andy's like opposing force. So if I like took the lead and be like, okay, nobody really spoke after Santi said like let's go after him, like can we have a conversation about like why we should go after him? But like I felt like I was safe, so I didn't do that. But I really was so frustrated because I hate not knowing like what, like the only grounding thing you have every tribal is you know how many votes there are and like that people are gonna vote and that they can't vote for themselves. So like the fact that was taken from us, I was so sad because I was like, my whole idea of tribal is gone.
So going into the werewolf thing, I wanted to bring it up here because I'm sorry, I've been so excited to do it. Sorry, forgive me for pulling a Maddie B or / Daniela and checking my notes. But the we played the werewolf game, essentially Mafia or Town of Salem for those of you who weren't tracking that. But we had a group of werewolves that was Holly, Katie, Victoria, and Swale. And pretty much instantly from the moment you all were on the screen, there was an audible, you could like hear through the stream the gasp that the commentators as well as the hosts had at seeing that group. Very, very fun. And also I think significant game-wise because it was, in my mind, the first non-generational real like alliance in a sense that existed. I don't even know how much you all felt that or we were willing it to be in existence, but it did seem like an actual legitimate thing that people were basing off of. So tell me about that group coming together and that round in general, especially in the incredible moment of the least trustworthy game where 3 of the 4 of you were the last 3 of the most trustworthy.
I was really excited when like the screen opened up and I saw Victoria and Katie in particular. No shade to Swale, but in terms of like big targets that I wanted to like have one-on-one time with, Victoria and Katie are 2 of the biggest targets that were in the game, besides, you know, me. So I thought that was going to be like a really good bonding time, and I was all in because meat shields, and I thought it was going to be really great. And I just love Swale as a person, so he was like a great addition to the group. So I was very excited when I saw that the group got revealed. I don't know about anyone else, but
yeah. When I was in that group, right? So I knew I was like amongst like royalty. So like in these kind of like random breakouts, you almost have to, like, of course you want to work with these people. You almost kind of have to force these alliances. So, you know, I knew that all of them at some point probably need like they were big threats, obviously, and for me, you know, I even in actual game of Werewolf, I was like, I'm willing to sacrifice myself and, you know, be caught as a werewolf for the sake of the game, right? And I would think maybe they can use that, can also translate in the game, and maybe they would prefer to want to work with me. So, I mean, I felt like this was like a good probably start for me going forward. So I mean, I'm being with Vic, Holly, and Katie. That was good for me. And then they ended up reeling in Rue because she was hit in the actual werewolf game.
Katie, do you have a perspective on that or no?
No, to be honest, I was really hoping I wouldn't be a werewolf because I'm really bad. I'm usually good in the beginning of Mafia, but then when I get like loud when someone accuses me, they can just really easily spot that I'm clearly like bullshitting. So I was just a little bit bummed about that. But then when I saw the group of people that I was werewolves with, I was like, all right, we're good. I feel like there's some stealthy players here that like even if like I get caught, like I think we'll be fine. But was super, super excited like in the next round. I was just thinking how crazy it was that most of us made it to the very end for like most trustworthy people.
Katie was such a good wolf, by the way. Like I rewatched it. You were just like, you were a villager. Like you were a walking, talking villager.
Yeah, I tried to like convince myself, you know, like low key, like Ted Bundy. Like you literally have to like convince yourself you're innocent, so that like people don't even question you. Like that's the only way.
Low key Ted Bundy. Wow. Well, yeah, you had a moment where you were like, wait, like do we get to know the number of werewolves, blah, blah. That was well done. But like, I think that does speak to, you say you're bad at these things, and I don't understand why you say that because you're not bad at them. There was, I think it said a lot, and we'll obviously get to more of your game later, but the first round, you literally won the like most trustworthy thing. What do you think it is that makes people trust you? And maybe that's for perspective for other people too. Like what is it that makes you trust Katie? Because I feel like you had a lot of trust in the game at this point.
I don't know, maybe I just come off harmless because I feel like part of it's that like I don't look like a physical threat. So people like think I'm easy to take to merge, or like I'm not like a big obvious threat. Maybe it's that like I'm just like more straightforward when it comes to having conversations with people, and like you can usually tell if I'm lying or being sneaky. So maybe it's that. I don't know. I was kind of worried actually about being like chosen as the most trustworthy. I didn't know if that was a strategic decision on Victoria's part, because I was like, oh, now because I'm pitted as like the most trustworthy, this could mean like later down the road people will be like, oh, well, Katie was chosen as the most trustworthy, so like let's get her out, kind of a thing. But I mean, I know it's a split second decision for Victoria.
Actually can definitely speak to that. So to be honest, I think it was looking at my options. It was either Katie or Holly. And I think just based on my history with Holly, I think it made more sense for me to pick Katie as the person that I saw as more trustworthy. And I think also in our playing styles, Katie, like you and I differ a lot. You have a really strong social game, whereas that's definitely where I think that's one of my weakest areas. And so I kind of wanted to maybe move a little bit of attention on you. I know later on in the game, I definitely started bringing up your name a little bit earlier than others. So no hard feelings, but I definitely know that you're a really strong player. And that was something I wanted to have other people be aware of.
So it was strategic. Well, I'm not surprised, Victoria. You're like the strategic queen of Survivor Maryland, so I respect it.
Victoria, did you have perspective on the werewolves?
No, I was actually curious if that was intentional for the group or if it was actually completely random, because I definitely think the way that it worked out, it was great for all of the big targets to be together. I think that was also kind of what started the conversation about a potential girls alliance, because once we brought in Rue after the werewolf game, I think there was like a lot of concern from the guys at that point. Katie, Holly, especially being like Holly so big on females alliances, and then bringing in Rue. I definitely think at that point I thought that was a great alliance to work with. I know that the next couple of rounds, I definitely was trying to, keep Rue on my side. I think even Swale. But the way that the game worked, I think it's so dynamic in the online thing. Like it's so hard to even process through thoughts. So like for me, like even though I am strategic, it was hard to think through the strategy because sometimes you just need more time to do it, and you don't have that time in a game like this.
And of course, I'm always down for random line.
I figured. It was just great luck of the draw then.
I don't even know if it's just that we were really good werewolves or that the villagers were all really bad villagers.
They were really bad.
I've played a lot
of seer. They killed a seer. You don't kill someone the first time they claim as a seer. You test it out, and then you if they're wrong, you kill them.
I just want to talk about the Rue moment, because that is a moment that really set in motion the girls' alliance with Rue, which was it was Santi and Rue, right? Were you both the same role, but Santi, you refused. That couldn't be.
Yeah, that one's on me. Not my best moment. I was under the I made I think a couple assumptions from previous games of Mafia that I played. I think I was in this limbo stage of I played enough or werewolf to like kind of know what was happening, but not enough to where I like was able to overcome some of those assumptions. And so the kind of overpower, like 4 werewolves being in the game, all these different roles kind of threw me off and made a bad call. And that one's on me. I just gotta take the L there, I think.
Thank you though.
Also, Shubal, are your ears ringing as soon as they said the word girls' alliance?
I mean, but there was a girls' alliance, so it's not like I was wrong.
It wasn't like, okay, yeah, all women strong, because like clearly we were gonna cannibalize ourselves at one point. Like, I'm just hold on, I gotta put my words correctly so I don't. You know what? I'm just gonna skip over that thought because I don't want to fuck up what I say. Anyways, it's like a nice front to like, yeah, women, let's work together for a little while, but like it's a very too dynamic gameplay to be like, oh yeah, we're just gonna do all women until the end. Like it's not realistic. Like it might be help for a round or two for us to like bond and get together and not get picked off one by one just because women, like it said, like, oh, there's only 4 women out of versus 6 men, but the women were getting the, oh, there's probably
Holly, are you talking about experience with the girls' alliance not working in the season that you played in?
Stop! I always try to work with the girls and they never want to work with me.
Victoria and Holly, the perfect girls' alliance. Till the end.
I always try and it never works. But like I feel like it was just something that was easy for like a round or two, but it was never gonna last the entirety of
Yeah,
the game.
but like a round or two, like you guys would use as an opportunity to take out maybe some big male threats. And like who are the male threats in this game? Like it's definitely the winners plus like a lot of the Gen 1 guys. So like it just was not something that was gonna be good for me. So and it was like a way to get like the Gen 3 guys to kind of come to our side more instead of just out like as an attempt. But
I think the issue, Shubal, was that it pitted you against. Oh, sorry, you cut out. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, like, that's who I was in a room with all the guys. So, like, we needed something to, like, bind us together because we had kind of been going at each other all game. So even if it, like, wasn't a girls' alliance, like, the facade of a girls' alliance could help bring them closer to us anyway.
Yeah. I was going to say, I thought it was, whether true or not, it pitted you against some of the key Gen 1 people for you, and that put you kind of in the crosshairs of that, because it almost was having Victoria, Holly, and Katie at the core of it almost did make it a Gen 1 alliance at its essence, although, Swally and Rue too. I don't know. I'm going to stop talking.
Oh, well, technically Katie is Gen 2, so It was more of a Gen 2
Dude, I guess it was Gen 2 majority. You're right. That's a good point.
I think when the first talk of the girls' alliance happened, Santi actually got popped into the room like as I was talking about it. He was trying to like naturally segue, like, we are outnumbered. And
Yo, I was so, because it was funny. I think I was just coming from the room where Shuba was like, all right, guys, this is not going to be popular. We're going to be villains, but we just got to do it. We got to go after the girls. I'm like, and in the back of my mind, I'm like, dude, it's always happened Survivor, not a big deal. Pop into this other room, and Katie's like, yeah, let's just start taking out the guys. I'm like, crap.
That was funny.
So
I felt really guilty if like it wasn't a thing, but I think like I literally saw on Twitter after the game was over, like Holly's like, let's kill all these men. So I was like, all right, I'm not crazy.
We genuinely were like vastly outnumbered for a little while. So yeah, I wanted to get a 1 or 2 guys out so you guys didn't grow out and like jerk circle. For the rest of the
Rue
game.
has joined us. Yes.
It was like half true.
Rue, this is a great time to join because your name just keeps coming up, and we had questions for you. So how are you?
I'm good. How is everybody?
Well, I can't speak for everyone, but no complaints for me. We're talking about the Werewolves Alliance that you got pulled into. Holly, Katie, Victoria, and Swale. How did you feel about that grouping?
I felt like it was good, especially at that point in the game. I didn't really have like a foundational group that I would go to during each vote. Like at that point in the game, each vote I was just voting with a different group. So once that was established, I know once we were able to establish the Werewolf Alliance, I was utilizing Victoria and Holly a lot in terms of like every vote. So definitely was a plus for my game.
Can I ask you about the werewolf game? Because I know that was quite a tumultuous time. I want to get your perspective on it.
Yeah.
Because you were honest. You were being what you were.
Yes. That werewolf game, I was so confident too. I was like, oh, something in me. I really wanted to ask about CT, but I was like, you know what? Let me not ask about CT. You know who else wasn't smiling that game? Holly. So when Holly died, I was like, Holly was not smiling. So I was like, okay, let me ask. And she was just quiet. I don't know, something about it. And then when no one wanted to believe me, I can't remember who was. It was Santi and CT. You know, it was frustrating, but it was a positive thing in my game because it got me safety and it got me into that Werewolf Alliance. So it was good.
It's funny how things that you are frustrated by in the moment end up paying off positive sometimes later, and things you think go well end up being the opposite. So I'm sure we'll keep going more. I certainly have a lot of questions about your game and journey through this as we go on. I think we can move through this round and go into the double vote next. Is right? Yeah. So we lost. We haven't talked to Brian yet. So let's talk to Brian a little bit. This was a wild vote, and it's a good time we have Rue here too, because this is a pretty pivotal moment in the game, I think, for both tribal councils. Brian, first off, you hadn't played in a while. You were like probably the least connected of the Gen 1 people. So how did you feel coming in and playing?
Yeah, I mean, the week before, my girlfriend had just like would keep telling me like, oh, you need to, like, for example, she told me not to trust Shubal like at all. And I was just getting scouting tape like the whole week. And,
wait, can I ask, you keep mentioning that the girlfriend has so many strategies. Is she like a big Survivor Maryland fan? Did she watch all of them? I need more context here.
Oh no, she's just helping me get ready because it was, you know, big game. I wanted to do well, and then I think she was like watching more film on it than me because I had a really busy work week that week, and yeah, I had the scouting report, but not for the new guys.
So besides, no, you can't trust Shubal then, which I think is a good take. Who were you hoping to work with, and how did the game unfold? Like, was it very different than what you expected?
I mean, I worked with Katie early on because she was in like my first room, and also I had worked with her in my season that I played, and like nothing bad happened. So you just gotta keep going to that. So, yeah, I mean, I was just trying to play mostly a neutral game and just not like cause any trouble until merge. But I almost didn't get it.
Well, it was interesting to me because you were such like a wild card in Guts and Glory, and you were like very like even keeled and neutral in this one. So you were like intentionally trying to play differently.
Yeah, I tried to do the complete opposite of what I did.
Nice.
And I came in the same place.
No. This was a moment. You thought you came in the same place, but you improved one placement. So all you need is 11 more games, and you're gonna win.
Yep.
The vote between between Rue and Brian was pretty wild and was a tie, and I didn't see a lot of it. Do people want to talk through what happened there?
Well, first off, I'm an idiot because your girl had an extra vote and forgot that I had an extra vote. So we didn't even need to revote, girls. Like, we could have just fucking had it. But coming off a 2 hour sleep and like a 2-day bender, I was not thinking very clearly.
Wait, that wasn't an intentional strategy? Like, I'm going to save this for later. I can trust
No, it expired that round.
It expired.
Oh, that's right.
Oh my God.
So I'm not going to lie, afterwards, I went and looked back because when I was reading like what I got from JS and I was on camera, I didn't want to look like I was like reading a paragraph like I had something from JS. So I tried to like briefly skim it and be like confirmed. And I didn't even know that it expired that round. But in the moment, I did just like forgot that I had it.
I was so worried that like 3 or 6 or 9 rounds later, you'd try and play that extra vote. Because usually extra votes go to like final 6, but this extra vote was given to you like before the game started. So because of charity. So, we made it to be at final 12. And I was like, oh my God, she's going to play it like final 7. Then I have to awkwardly tell her, I'm sorry, your extra vote has expired.
Yeah, no, so I didn't realize it expired for then. And I also will like just admit that I forgot because I have 2 pencils. And then I did look back. I think it was like, was it final 10 or something? I went and reread it because I was thinking and I saw that it expired. So it's like, whatever. It worked out anyways.
Yeah, I will say that for that. I think it was maybe to the viewers, it was what, 5 Gen 1 and then Rue. And so I think Rue was the obvious target. But to be honest, for me, like the reason why I more voted with against Brian was because, Brian, the fact that you are playing a neutral strategy, that's not one that works with what I play. And I think everyone else in Gen 1, we play like very big games. And then Rue, because we had the alliance from the Werewolf Alliance, that was also something. But I think because Holly and I seemed to like save Rue, it also made the guys think that there was like a very strong girls alliance, which at that point I don't think really was the case either.
And in addition to voting for Brian, I don't really know Brian personally. So like Brian to me, I am just as familiar with him as I am with a Gen 3er. You know what I mean? So it wasn't really about like, oh, we're going to stick Gen 1 strong. And also going into a final 11, 10, if there's still all 6 of us of Gen 1 in, and there's 4 Gen 2s and 2 Gen 3s, why would you not all come together and be like, screw that, we'll even go to rocks, like who cares? And cut off one of us. So it's like, while we have the opportunity, like, let's cut off like one of our limbs so that we don't get shot in the head later. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So and I would have rather voted out Brian over CT and Steve. So that was my thought process.
And then definitely
Go forward.
Oh no, I was saying that definitely during that time, I feel like a lot of the confusion stemmed from me, Holly, and Victoria. Like we previously were already like, okay, we're going to be aligned. Like this is going to happen. So when we went into that vote, I know Steve and CT weren't like, they didn't really know that, okay, this 3 was actually happening, and they still thought I was like the backup vote. So then that sort of confusion happened that, oh, they're actually not going to vote out Rue. And then the votes changed back to Brian. But I feel like at that point, it was just establishing like, okay, especially at that point, me and Holly were in different tribes together. So there was already that relationship where, okay, we were all comfortable with each other.
So Steve, you voted. I guess it was 3-3 with Rue, Holly, and Victoria voting together, right? And Steve, you voted Rue that round, and then I don't know if you were the only one to flip or if multiple people flipped, but I'm sure we'll talk about this more. But the Steve or the you and Rue dynamic was something that was interesting. So at that point, were you? Walk me through there. Were you thinking about working closely with Rue at that point? You guys hadn't really established anything, right?
No, this was the start of it, really. I mean, I don't know. I'd be curious to get Rue's thoughts here, right? Because I voted for her first, and then I, quote unquote, saved her for lack of better words, because I flipped and it was 3-1 from there. Even though she wouldn't have been out, but I wanted to give her that. Couple reasons. One, I thought she was in a bit more of a neutral spot than I think she actually was. So credit to her for building some good alliances without being too loud about it. And then two, in the back of my mind, I knew she also had that friend idol. So I thought that's a stronger ally to potentially have down the road, than Brian. So that was why it was an easy flip. It certainly wasn't anything I was willing to go to rocks for at that point. So it was a pretty easy flip for me. And then from there, that was when I said, okay, let's get closer with Rue and see how she is and how her gameplay is. And from there, I was genuinely trying to work with her, and I think we were pretty honest throughout until we got a bit closer to the end.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I know I understood why Steve flipped the second round, because when we did have the 1-to-1, 2-to-3, whatever conversations, we were able to talk to Steve and tell Steve we were going to go for Brian. So essentially, when we all voted for Brian, it showed that, that's still the game plan. However, the only person, I didn't talk to, or we didn't talk to, was CT. So I wasn't surprised when CT still voted for me the second go around.
I want to field a question broadly here while we're at it, because this is the first Gen 1er who left. And there's a question from the great Eric Yang in the chat who said, general question for everyone, why do you think Gen 1 did so well? And I have a follow-up question for Chris Thomas after that. But I guess generally speaking, I mean, Gen 1 got through the first bunch of votes without getting out and with very little targets. So we talked about the momentum thing with Gen 3, but why does that? Is there something else that helped Gen 1 do so well in particular?
Yeah, I want to say something to that. Like, it goes back at the start when the pairing was like a Gen 1, Gen 2, and Gen 3. Like, there was like an affinity to work towards the bigger players. Like, sometimes maybe you watch them a lot and maybe you like their gameplay. So even Gen 3, they're willing to work with anybody, especially when their numbers start going down. And then Gen 2, we looked up to anybody that's willing to give a hand. We're willing to listen. And I think Gen 1 players, they kind of had to pick amongst which players they want to work. Like, let's say Shubal chooses an Andy or Steve chooses Rue. They kind of throughout the game they start slimming down who the best options are. So just coming in, just the repetition helps them big time.
Yeah, and I think part of it also was just that, like, Gen 1, it more had to do with the format too. Like, Gen 1 was just very aggressive from early on, and it's just really hard to change a vote once momentum's getting for it. So, like, it might have been difficult to be in a room with like a Gen 1 person, but it's so hard to fight that aggression because you can't talk to people one-on-one. They kind of just stuck going where you think the votes are going, which like might have made us bigger targets later on, but for like the early game was definitely I think what we need to do.
Well, you get this like demon voice randomly with your mic. It's so odd.
It's the villain in him.
Yeah.
I want to ask Katie on. Around now is when you were like, okay, gotta switch this up. This is not going the right way because I'm gonna get outnumbered one of these days as well. You gathered anyone and everyone who wasn't Gen 1, and you're like, okay, it's time to go. Gen 1 has got to go. Why weren't people more on board with Katie on? I thought it was perfect timing, by the way, Katie. Why weren't people more on board at this time to start flipping the game around and voting out Gen 1? It took a few more votes for it to finally pick up.
I think we were on board, but Andy got in the way.
That's true. Maddie was definitely on board. I think a couple other people during our tribal or our team were kind of on the fence. And I felt like I was definitely pushing, like forcing an agenda. But it was like really, I felt like it was for the best for everyone in that group other than Shubal and Andy. So I was really pushing. And it was unfortunate that like Shubal just happened to be the only Gen 1 person in our group. So like I had to just go for him. So that was where like I was doing numbers in my head and I was like, we were at 12 and there was like, you know, the other group going to tribal 2. And I didn't really count like Brian as part of Gen 1. Like I knew even if he were to be out, like it doesn't really change anything, right? Like Brian's somebody that I could potentially work with and like he's not like seen as a big threat. And I think honestly the reason why Gen 1 went so far is because everyone was too scared to throw their names. I mean like people like Holly or like Victoria, like Shubal, like anyone, like if you threw their name, like they would come for your ass. Like they would literally be like, who said my name? And then they would just come for them. Like, you know what I mean? Like everyone knew that they could rally the numbers against someone so quick, and including me, like I wasn't going to go that early. But I think by 12 or 11, you're just like, all right, there's still 6 Gen 1 people, like 5 of which are like probably a voting block. And I was like, this is the time to get all the misfits together and try to like make a move, because otherwise they're just going to like make us feel included, but then slowly pick us off like one by one. And I never felt part of like that 5.
Shubal, would you have joined the other people, the non-Gen 3ers, and kind of help take out the big names of Gen 1? Because I kind of felt like you were torn in between the 2 fractions of Andy and the Gen 1 players.
Well, like it depends how things played out. Like I'm gonna disagree with Katie for a quick sec. I don't think it was random that I was the only Gen 1 person on that tribe. I think I was hand selected by Santi to be like the sacrificial lamb, because I was picked first, and then a bunch of people who would clearly vote me out were then picked. So like if I would have been open to taking out some other people. Maybe like I would have been open to working with Gen 3 if they had proved like loyalty at some point. So if they had like actually not voted me out on that one tribe, I would have definitely been open to working with them, because like I know how cutthroat Gen 1 can be. Like people love me as a meat shield, and when I lose my utility, they'll cut me in a second. So I would have been open to working with them for sure. I actually think I made my biggest mistake of the game that round.
And then one more thing, why didn't Santi and Swala, you guys were so against working with Andy, like so against it. I don't, we'll get to this later. I felt like if you teamed up with Andy just for a few rounds, then dump him, and like pulled in Maddie, pulled in Katie on, pulled in Shubal for a vote or 2, Rue, of course, maybe there's someone else. I feel like that was kind of the majority that need to get together to get rid of the top 4 dogs of Gen 1. And I saw it. I don't know. Some of the other hosts may have seen it, but
before it's like every single round, it wasn't just they were against each other. Santi would say at tribal, Andy, you know, we're on different sides here. You know, I don't know, but I think I'm going to be voting against you every round.
I know, but I didn't understand it because I kind of felt like they were going to be in the same place eventually, getting voted out like at merge by Gen 1.
That was my reasoning too, Santi. Like I extended you the hand so many times because I knew like, okay, I know that like you're against me, but like think about the bigger picture, right? Like we're enemies, and enemies, like keep your friends close, but keep your enemies closer. That was kind of what I was putting down, but I think the timing didn't work out, because I think at some point we were willing to work together towards like later on, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I wasn't totally. I really liked that persona of me and Andy being like against each other. And I thought we were going to come together too. I think this was one of the times where the online format prevented that from happening, because there wasn't this time to really like build this trust. It was like just a gut feeling. Are they with me, or are they just like totally lying behind my back? So I think JS, you're so right. That would have been the right move, and that would have been the right alliance. And I think one we were like trying to make and form, but there just was there was this lack of trust that made it difficult to actually form. And so that's what made it tough. I think if it were an in-person Survivor game, I think Andy, Shubal, and I would have actually really stuck together for a good bit there. Shubal and I worked together for a small part of the game, but Andy and I just never happened.
And then we can go straight into the idol decision at the next round, and like what happened, and like Jordan, Andy, why Maddie J, who I kind of felt like was this like lone puppy dog ready to be picked up by you guys. I don't know. What happened?
Oh, sorry. You can go, Maddie.
No, you go. I want an explanation.
I was going to say, so like, I wasn't 100% Andy had an idol. I remember there was like some conversation earlier about like somebody messaged you for an idol, but it wasn't there. And I remember Andy like being suspicious, and I was like pretending not to pay attention. So I thought it was possible. And I had heard he's a less loyal Shubal. So I'm like, if anyone has an idol, it has to be an Andy. So I was just so focused on hoping he had an idol and hoping he would play it on me, and that my like work from earlier in the game with him would pay off, that I wasn't really thinking like, okay, if he somehow plays it for me, what would be the smartest thing for me to do? Because right after it happened, when he actually played it for me, I was like, shit, why didn't I put a vote on Katie? Because then it would have been 1-1, and then people.
I know, we could have split the votes. Oh.
Yeah. But like if I had been in a room with like you and Andy, or even just Andy, I probably would have thrown that out to him. Like, if you have an idol, play it on me, and we'll take out. And
yeah,
just,
I never got to talk. It was just a horrible breakout room.
It's hard. It's really hard.
I
It's like very
because
hard, guys.
then I was with like you and Swale, and I was like, oh, this is not going to be good, because I just felt like Andy had something. And I think I literally said, I'm about to get idled out of this game right now. And I just knew you were going to play it on him.
Dude, that's like the biggest limitation. And I think it's like, as a viewer, it's hard to grasp how hard it is to make these relationships when you don't have the ability to private message someone. I was also thinking of voting Katie, because I knew that like the value of idling Jordan and voting Katie out would have been so much more valuable. But my thought was like, if I try to split the vote somehow or get a tie or something, like I'd rather get the trust, like, hey, I played an idol and I'm sticking to my vote, a little bit more valuable, because I couldn't private message Jordan. I couldn't private message Maddie J. Like, I just like, you know what, people are going Maddie J, like I have to, like, or else people are going to freak out and then try to vote me if I idle Jordan, or if I idle myself, people are going to vote Shubal. So like I had to like, you can't rock the boat that much in these types of scenarios, right?
Andy, did you ever consider, like, because we were in the host chat, we're like, okay, Andy's going to know that the vote's going towards Shubal, and certainly he played idle him before, he could do it again, but at the same time, like, would he really? Because it would so expose him. But also it was you, and it was very obvious based on how you're playing in the pre-merge that it did seem like you'd be the kind of person who would do that. So did you ever consider not playing the idol on Shubal, or were you just going to do it the whole time?
No, I was going to play it. I was pretty set on playing it. At least in my mind, playing idol, like, this is like my philosophy in the game. Playing idol on yourself, I think, is always the weaker move. Sorry, Steve. And I think like using an idol to build relationships and build strategy is way more fun, but also way more valuable in terms of building the relationships. So I knew I was going to play on someone, definitely not myself.
And this is coming back to me, because this was, I think, Andy, you might remember better, but we were in a room. It might have been just the two of us plus somebody else. And I was like, all right, Andy, I'm down to work, but I want to go Shubal. Because I was like, I'd work with one or the other, but both together was just too much chaos. So I was like, for me to work with Andy and start building this trust, he needs to turn on Shubal, and then we can see where this goes. When you saved Shubal with the idol, I was like, geez, no, there's no future here. That's it. And
that's a really good point.
I'm curious what was going through your mind with that.
No, that's a really good question. And like, again, like if you could have private messaged me and be like, hey, vote Shubal out this round, I might have, honestly, just for the sake of the chaos, and like maybe idled someone else. I don't know.
It was really obvious that we were all going for Shubal, though. Like, I mean, I don't know, just from my perspective.
Right, but that's the whole point, right? Like, I didn't know if I had Santi's trust, because we had a room. I think it was you, me, and Katie actually, that we were discussing the merits of like, should we actually vote Shubal? Sorry, Shubal. And because I would just like, you know, I could work with Santi, but I don't know if he's accepting my hand, right? My peace offering yet. And so I need to stick to my guns, and Shubal was the only gun that I had at that point.
And like, and one more note, I hate to backtrack, just because I don't know if people caught this. It's kind of funny. In the now round, in the now and later vote,
yeah, Shubal
Jordan Shubal voted out Andy in the now round, and Andy just kept on going, playing idol on him 2 rounds later.
Love it.
I was gonna use that to throw somebody else under the bus later. So because it would make no sense for me to vote Andy. So if Andy stayed and then we still had like a close relationship, I could use that to like sour someone else in the game. It never came to fruition because the game moved too fast. And I can honestly say, after Andy played the idol on me, I was not going to vote Andy no matter what the rest of the game, even if it meant me going out. So like, That was one vote, but like he had my vote the rest of the game.
Andy, did you know that he voted for you then?
No, I had no idea actually, and I love that. I had no idea. That would have been perfect, Shubal.
Let me jump to a couple questions from Maddie J, and then I want to talk to Victoria because I know she has to go in a second. So, and that'll transition us nicely into the post merge. So, Maddie J, talk me through like. Well, I guess one of my questions is, so you were like obviously clawing a lot from like the very first vote, and I think that made you a fun underdog. You were definitely very scrappy, and everyone always loves to see that.
I told Chris and Doug that was gonna happen.
You certainly did. I mean, you were spot on about pretty much everything you said. So there, you had that going for you. What if you had gotten to the merge? Gotten through that vote, the idol doesn't get played, whatever. Did you have a long-term plan at that point?
Wait, yes, that's what Shubal just said. That's literally like I would have loved to play with Andy and Shubal because actually, like, I do think. I mean, as annoying as it was to hear people say that I play chaotically, I definitely like do play chaotic evil, even though I do cry about it, as Jacqueline knows. And so like I just wanted to have fun, and I thought if I had made it to merge, it was very much like I thought I was gonna be first boot, so I just wanted to cause as much chaos. But this was a very different format for me because I'm not used to not knowing what's going on. And like that was very hard for me to navigate. And I'm also not really used to playing with people like Andy and Shubal, I feel like. So I mean, I would have wanted to play with them, even though that probably would have been a poor choice. I really liked when I got to talk to Holly and Katie and Victoria. So I probably honestly would have stuck with the girls.
You talked a lot during the day about being like starstruck. I don't know if you were playing that up to like get in goods with the Gen 1 players, but yeah, what was the feeling of like playing with all these people?
Oh yeah, and when I watched it back, I was like, oh no worries, like I got idled out by my favorite Survivor player. Sorry, I wasn't talking about Andy, I was talking about Shubal. No, Andy, no, sorry. I didn't know you at all. But yeah, like I just like I've been watching Survivor Maryland with my sisters, and first of all playing it was just so surreal, and then being on this, I just felt like a lost puppy. It was so funny because the first thing I was put in a room with Chris Thomas, and I think my friend texted me and was like, you literally sound like an idiot right now, because I was like, I just finished watching All Stars and it was so great, and then I was like, stop. And when I saw Victoria and Holly, and I think I was with and Katie, I think I was like, guys, I just like feel like this is not real. So honestly, like I was really sad to go out right before merge because I wanted to at least be in jury with everyone, but it was a really fun experience, and it was just like it was awesome for sure.
Did any of them did they meet your expectations? Or I mean, personally, I know they're all very disappointing. So
about my expectations, but kind of like in a bad way, I guess. Yeah, it was great. I also like, yeah, I don't know. Everyone was awesome.
For what it's worth, I really did enjoy talking with you also. So probably not much.
I was really hoping to work with you longer, Maddie.
Ugh. It's fine. I was like, I really do put a curse on the people that write my name down, just saying. So I was glad that kind of came over.
Well, yeah, you were a lot of fun, and certainly a lot of fun people to watch. And I think you, like, because you were so separated from the whole Gen 3 thing earlier, and you were like very clearly on the other side, especially with Andy, I think if you had survived that, you actually would have gone really, really far.
Yeah, I wish that Andy and I had a chance to talk, because I feel like we were really targeted as like villains, and like just people were on Gen 3 were really scared of us for some reason. I don't know.
The reason.
What?
You know the reason.
Oh yeah. But yeah, I think it would have been really fun, and I'm glad people liked watching me play. I thought that was really funny to me because I don't really feel like I did much, but I had fun. So, but yeah, I'm gonna go and leave you jury merge people at it. But yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course, thanks, Maddie.
Bye, Maddie.
Let's go in. So my thought now we're already an hour and a half in. So I think I'm going to go more player by player, starting with Victoria, of course. And I have questions for each of you, but as we talk about the specific rounds, we can use those to kind of launch into. I don't think we have to go super chronologically because we've already set up a lot of stuff. So, Victoria, as I feel like I was watching today in the first breakout room you got into, I just saw a thread of queens. So, hello. That's how people feel. So I'm scrolling to your questions and I literally can't find them. So, we didn't talk about you getting the idol. Wait. Oh, you're right there. Okay. We didn't talk about you getting the idol that literally the first round. How was that?
So to be completely honest, I think I kind of stumbled upon it by luck. Maybe in the back of my mind, I was like thinking hint. But I kept on seeing that in JS's emails and I was like, what is this referring to? And then in the challenge, the one thing I noticed was that you didn't have to, for the last word, you didn't have to actually like unscramble it on your screen. You could just type it directly to JS. And so I was pressing the hint button because I wanted to make it faster for myself. And then I actually saw the pop-up and it said, message JS, I want an idol. But I didn't believe it at first. So I finished the challenge and then I refreshed it to make sure it was real. So I'm actually really surprised that no one else got it. So I think it was, kind of lucky on my end.
No one else saw it.
Yeah, I think the places where all the idols were hidden were super smart. Like, honestly, it was amazing. But I'm really glad that I got to hold on to it for so long. I think that's one thing about these online games also. It's hard to tell who might have seen something, who might have gotten it, because it's not as obvious as like Shubal running around campus at 2 a.m. digging like all over and so I think it's a lot more sneaky in that way. It was cool.
Who else saw, while we're here, the orange message me if you found the idols thing? Because we had a lot of debate before about how easy that was. Everyone saw it?
Like 6 or 7 people messaged me for
Shubal, you didn't see it?
What?
I'm old. I literally can't see it. Like my eye can't see the screen that much. Like I still have no idea what anyone's talking about. I tried to watch it back on the live stream and I'm like, what are they talking about? I can't read any of this. So
do you see it now?
I did not see it.
Do you see it now?
See it where?
No. On your screen?
On my ceiling.
What?
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
The only reason why
I know I don't look that like deep.
Yeah, I didn't notice that either. And I think one thing is also
You had to like pin my video. You have to see the
Yeah,
difference and then
which
pin
like
it.
I don't do it that way.
No, but at some point it pinned your video. Like at some point, I don't know, someone changed the settings and like you became big, and then I saw the orange thing. I think at that point everyone messaged you. But maybe not.
Maybe it was Austin.
No, I thought you did that, JS. I was.
I didn't pin my own video.
I didn't do it.
I kept on laughing during it because I was like trying to explain. First of all, I meant to do it like 5 minutes before, and then I was like looking at my notes and I was like, "Oh shit, I forgot to put it up." And then so now I'm explaining like the important like now and later like explanation, and I'm like, "So first you'll vote up," and I'm like just laughing, getting all these text messages, idol, and I'm like, "So then you'll have to do that," and I kept on laughing. I don't know if it was obvious, but it was really funny.
I don't know if as a co-host, if I put pinned video, if it shows for everyone it's pinned.
That's fine. That's fine.
I wanted to show everyone on the stream. Look at this. Notice how the players might not notice it.
Yeah.
Well,
I had a few other options as well, which we heavily debated over.
Oh, I would have seen that one, I think.
And that one.
My thing is like I was looking forward to like looking at other people's faces to see if anyone was acting weird instead of your face. No offense, you're beautiful, but I was trying to spend my time looking at other people and not the host.
Totally makes sense. I'm not in the game. Yeah, that was a really fun idol to hide in the game. Victoria's idol that she found in the puzzle was super fun, and then the idol that Steve found in the Family Feud was probably my favorite because it was literally in front of all of you for like 20 minutes, and no one found it. I almost just like made it really big.
I honestly, that was my first time playing Family Feud and Werewolf. So I had no idea what was going on. We lost. I was like, what? We just got all the points. Why did we get them stolen? I was so mad.
Victoria, so you talked a lot about your social game generally in the different seasons you played in. How comfortable were you in this format versus the like long form live games?
Yeah, I think there are like pros and cons. I think for me, like I wasn't someone who would actively throw out a name, so I think of like the Gen 1s, I was probably least aggressive. But I think I did benefit from the reputation fact, the fact that like Gen 3 had known who I was. I think even Andy wanted to work with me and I didn't really have a chance to have a one-on-one conversation. So I think in that respect, that was something that I benefited from. But I also do think that like because your relationships are so fluid and you can't control who's in the room with you, I found myself kind of bouncing like to the relationships that I had. So you could see later in the game, I was like really working with Chris Thomas and trying to work with Holly because those were people that I knew I could trust. Whereas like when you're briefly in a room for like 3 minutes with someone, I think that conversation for me just wasn't enough to really gauge how they felt about where we stood in the game. I don't know if like anyone else felt that way. I think it'd be great to hear like what the more social players were kind of thinking in regards to adapting to the online format.
I think the biggest thing was when, for the brief second you ever were in a room with just one other person, you had to like speak really quick and you could actually like make a move or something because you didn't have to like watch what you were saying. You knew exactly what you wanted to like say to that person or get across from them. So I know like Rue and I had a couple of those like real quick, maybe like one or two. Katie, I think you and I had one or two. Chris, you and I had one or two. And like those are the ones where we're like, okay, this is what we're doing. We can do it. Okay, cool, let's go. And then someone else will jump in the room and you just be like, yeah, so which way you guys lean in? Like how you feel?
I thought those were the most impactful moments of the entire game. And I thought that was one of the things that helped Gen 1 is that they were the most connected with each other. And so they had the most ability to capitalize on those from the start. But I think everyone adapted to that too, and people got very direct with those moments and utilized them. Victoria, you as the merge was going on, you started to see that you didn't trust Katie, or not that you didn't trust her, you were worried about her, and especially at the coins round when she was safe, but you also were kind of putting it out there a little bit. When did that start to come up in your mind, and what made you go about that?
I think it was always kind of a thought in my head because the fact that she was like technically a Gen 2 player but had relationships with a lot of the Gen 1 alliances, I think that was something that I knew to watch out for. And my group in the very beginning was actually, I think, the only one that voted for Gen 2 to go to Tribal for the first one. And I kind of thought that a lot of the Gen 2 players would have that advantage because they have the potential to have relationships with both Gen 1 and Gen 3. Not sure like to what extent that actually was true. But I think like the coin vote, Katie told me later it was partially because of the donations, which I didn't realize at first. But when she got so many positive coins, like I wasn't really actively trying to campaign for the positive coins. I know we were trying to give negative coins to Holly. But when Katie got the positive coins, I was thinking, you know, like she's been voted very trustworthy throughout the game. She has this ability to make really strong relationships. And that's definitely something that in the long run, I think I couldn't have really competed with. So I think I just wanted to get it out on people's radars. And especially, you know, like it didn't even really come to fruition. It took many, many rounds for even us to have the opportunity to get Katie. So I think that really speaks to the strength of her gameplay as well. And I think, no, like I wouldn't know how I would play with Katie in a real game. I think she's just like such a strong competitor. Yeah. So I definitely knew I was going to play it, but I wasn't sure who I was playing it for. I hadn't brought it up that I had the idol. I think there was a chance I had to tell Chris Thomas, but I think for me it was like I think at that time there was the potential for a split vote, and even though it hadn't really come up, I thought that was something to be concerned about. So I think I benefited when Santi said, "Victoria, I'm going for you." So because everyone was so straightforward in the game, I knew that was definitely a thing. But I think had he said that they were gonna vote for Chris Thomas, I would have played my idol for Chris Thomas because had I not saved him, there's no way that I would have lasted much longer in the game. You know, I needed that relationship at that point.
Partners forever.
And then I guess we can get into it here. The final 6 vote was certainly maybe the craziest one vote wise of the game. And I don't know. Let's just talk about that round, and then I want to jump to Andy because I know he has to go too. So, literally just messaged me. Great timing. But let's talk about the final 6 round real quick from your perspective, and we can always get into more of it later from like the Steve, Katie, and stuff perspective, and what it was like to go out. I don't know.
God, honestly, I think someone asked me on Twitter, and I was just like, I blacked out what happened during the vote. But I knew that there was during the conversations that round, both Steve and Katie had told me that they voted for Santi, and I knew that there were only 3 votes for Santi that came up in the last round. So I was like, okay, someone's lying to me. And to be completely honest, I kind of felt like Katie was more likely to lie. I didn't really understand the depth of Steve's relationships with Rue and Swally at that point, and so I thought, Katie just had the relationships. So I think during that tribal, like CT was very vocal in making pointing out the lie, or trying to figure out what happened. And then I think that I didn't realize that Rue was the 4th vote for Katie at the time. Like I said, I totally blocked it out. But then I think when it came to a tie, first of all, I was not expecting it at all. And then the second vote, because CT had given up his immunity, I honestly thought it was like my name came up first and then Chris's twice. And I thought like he completely fucked his game. And I'm sorry, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to cuss. But I was so afraid that he like had given up his game to try to, convince Steve to save me. So then when it came to a tie again, I was completely taken by surprise. I think that was just a crazy vote. Like, honestly, still don't really understand what happened. So I would love to hear what everyone else is thinking.
Well, I'm sure we'll have to get deeper into that later. I don't. We'll sync up back on the reactor unless someone has a point to make now with Victoria. God, I can't speak in specific. I don't know. Go.
Katie, why did you lie about voting for? Why did you make that lie?
I still wanted to work with Victoria, so I thought I could, weasel my way out of that situation. And so Chris blasted me, and then I was like, all right, fuck you, you're out.
If you had told me the truth, I would have pushed for Swally or Rue. It would not have been for you. It was because you were lying. That's why I pushed for you.
Really? Darn. Well, yeah, I mean, that happened, like, we were in the last breakout before we went to Tribal, so, yeah, I don't know. I think it was just, like, I was already deep in the lie that I didn't want to, like, come clean and just say, like, yeah, sorry, Victoria. Because I was like, I felt like it was too late to mend the relationship if I confessed that I lied, because then they could just actively come for me.
No, that's definitely fair. I think it's harder in some ways to kind of lie in this game because it's like Chris Thomas and I, we had a couple seconds, maybe it was 30 seconds before Tribal, and that's when I pointed out to him, like one of these people is definitely lying. We have to figure out who it is.
The beautiful partner moments we had, the reuniting, those were very fun for the last 8-7-6 round. I don't know. JS's randomness definitely put those together. I'll say I don't know, but I'm a little skeptical about those ones. But
was it really random though?
Wait, what was random? Everything was random. Breakout rooms are random, and then how we switch it is like, yeah, it is. It's random. And then how it switches is like one person from each room slides to the left, and then the next room, everyone's one more slides to the left. And so it's impossible in like 3 to 4 rounds to like get a group of 6 to all get with each other if there's only 2 rooms. Like the math is just impossible. 2 people will not be in the same room, and then 2 people will be in the same room like 3 out of the 4 times. So all of that is random and how it does. Everyone's name is like written down. I'm just like writing, crossing this way, that way, and then I write the new rooms out, and then I make it happen on the in Zoom. It's all random.
Me, Austin, and JS decided who would go in which room. We said we really don't want Victoria succeeds. We're gonna put her here.
A few times. Okay, all the time throughout the game, Rue was like, can I please talk to Steve? Or can I please talk to this person? Or like, she'd message me, and I'm like, I mean, if it's going to happen, it'll happen for you, girl.
Who did that?
It was so sweet.
Me, I was like, for instance, if I wanted to talk, I wanted to talk to Katie, for instance. I wanted to talk to Steve, Swally one time.
That's so funny.
Like all those people I want to talk to specifically for specific reasons. But yeah.
Victoria, the last question I have for you is, I thought like I was getting very excited. This was true with Holly too. Like the personal things I had, like attachments I have to you guys. I was like, oh my god, we're getting close. One of the two of them could get their win. I'm so excited. But then it just sort of seemed like you ran out of options late. And I know some people will talk about maybe the Schubel vote was that time, and maybe that was part of it. For me, I thought maybe the Holly vote. Did you think you had a shot to win, or at what point did you think it was over?
Yeah, I think the Holly vote definitely made me feel like I messed up. I think with my idol, I was actually also considering playing it for Holly, but I think there were some things like going on in my head that I wasn't sure like how that would affect the other relationships that I had, given that I hadn't talked about me having an idol. But I definitely think that like because Schubel left early and then some of the bigger targets got out, it was kind of easier for like Katie and Steve, who generally played a little bit more on like the low key, like forming relationships, staying in the middle. I think it was easier for them to kind of slide through without getting the target. So I think that was probably where early merge I realized that I didn't really have too many options. Just tried to go as deep as I could.
Well, as always, you were a blast to watch. Thank you for joining us very late at night tonight, and great to see you as
Show
always.
everyone my favorite tweet of the day.
Sure.
This was my favorite tweet of the day, everyone.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Wait, JS, I didn't realize I was on mute during that challenge, but I was like being so sassy to you because I was like,
really?
I was doing all my spins, like I didn't touch my toilet paper.
That was the funniest. No, that was a fun challenge. It went a little too long. You guys were too good at it. But yeah, that was hysterical. And Brian Scally's tweet just sent me over. I was dying of that for an hour.
We love Scally. Anyway, I will let you go, and let me jump to Andy real quick since he has to go also. Andy, I feel like we probably covered the
See you, Vic.
Bye, Victoria. I think we probably covered the majority of your game. I think the pre-merge was the shining moments. But is there anything merge-wise or jury-wise that you want to talk about or about your experience overall?
Yeah, I was just curious. Like, I think my relationship with Rue was really interesting because I think like I was going at her for so much, but she was still sometimes still voting with me, which like I don't know, it gave me such a red flag that when we got into when I got voted out, I thought she for sure had like this mastermind plan of like screwing up my entire game somehow and like voting out people that I was wanting to work with. And so I just used the friend idol piece as a kind of a play, but it didn't work. So there's that. So that's to you.
What's crazy is that when I had the friend idol, when we were in the first group, you, me, Schubel, I was like, from Schubel, I already could tell, like, okay, coming to this game, I didn't really watch the other seasons. Everybody was just brand new to me, apparently. So already from like just assessing people's characteristics, Schubel, I could tell you were already strong, like in terms of your persona. So I was like, okay, I don't really want to work with him. Like he has a strong personality. But then I saw you, Andy. I was like, oh, perfect. I'm going to try to like connect with Andy and see if I can like work with him long term, because people wouldn't expect me and you to work together. But then the first vote, when you and Schubel did that, I was like, oh, wow, they're closer than I thought. But then I was like, okay, you know what? I still might be able to get Andy if I have this friend idol and I use it on him one time. But then, like, as the game progressed, like, you and Schubel were just getting even closer. And I was like, I'm not going to be your number 3. I want it to be your number 2. So I was just like, I was voting with you from the beginning to try to develop, like, oh, this friend, like, trust. But then when I saw that you already had a number 2, I was like, there's no point in me trying to be another number 2. And I just moved on to the next thing.
Yeah, and I think that's, like, really well played, too, because yeah, for sure. I think when it came down to my vote, and I realized it was going to be me or you, I tried to play the whole friend idol card against you. And I'm actually really surprised that like people like Steve or I don't know, Santi, you were still there. Like the mentality of like, I don't know, I was hoping the friend idol would put you more of a target on your back, but I think you played such a good under the radar game that even the fact that you had a friend idol wasn't like your killing blow, if that makes sense. And so major props.
I will say the only other thing about that round there are many things about that round that I enjoyed, but one had the whole water bottles thing, which was very fun. And yeah, thank you, Shubal, for demonstrating a water bottle. And the comments in the stream that I was reading through today called it water bottlegate. So that was good. And then also a very explosive tribal when you were calling Rue out with the friend idol. Rue was fighting back. Katie was like, "Are you blind?" Like it was a lot going on there. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was a really fun travel. I will say, really fun. Yeah, Shubal, I will say this too. Even though I think we were really close, and I think I told JS this too. I was this close. If I had a hint that you're the other target, I was this close in saying, you know what, I'm gonna vote Shubal, and maybe try to like do something with that. But then my fear was that if I would said that, Chris Thomas would have voted for me, and then it wouldn't matter. So
it would have been a tie vote if you did that.
I was not going to vote you because you just saved me. Like, I thought I was going home. Like, I 100% thought I was going home. Like, because I was doing the math in my head. I'm like, I think I might have convinced Santi to not vote me, but Rue's definitely voting me. So I was, like, preparing my speech to leave. And then you went in on Rue, and I was just like, oh, my God, what is Andy doing to his game right now? Like, now I'm doing the math. I'm like, now she's definitely voting for him. Like, I live another day. And then I watch it back and see, like, the water bottle, like, aggressively switch to a pen, and she's, like, waving everyone, like, pen, pen, pen. And so, yeah, I can't believe you did that, but I'm glad you did. Because
yeah, for sure. Because that's funny, because I was, like, almost 100% sure I was going to go home, too. And so I think, like, that was, like, our downfall in the sense of, like, oh, shit, like, we're both going home, let's pull some crazy stuff, and then it just fell flat.
I thought if you made another round, you had a good shot of getting like roped in by some other groups because you were such an outsider, but that people might have tried to use you, but who knows what would have happened.
True.
Yeah, definitely that vote. I was going in voting for Shubal, but once we started our bickering back, I was like, you know what, F it, I'm going for Andy. And then
so Andy, Shubal would have been voted out there if Rue had voted that way.
Yeah, I know. And the other thing too, like, yeah, it was like my second biggest mistake, I'd say, other than voting for Matty J. I will say though that we had a room, Chris Thomas and Jordan and I think we were vibing so well that like I told him like, hey, like if I feel like this tribal is going to shit, like I'm just gonna say, you know what, Rue, target is Rue, let's all go on Rue. And we got the 3 votes on her, so at least like us 3, we voted together, but it just didn't materialize, I guess, with my pitch regarding the friend idol.
Yeah, Chris Thomas, you hardcore were in a room with Jordan and Andy. I think like Rue or maybe it was one of the girls just left, and you were like, yo, you two, I want in this group. It's us 3, let's go. Were you being serious or?
Yeah, I was being serious. Every single person in the game wanted those 2 out. I love the way Shubal plays. Andy's a Shubal clone, so I knew I was going to love the way Andy played. And all game, I was like, I just want to end up in a room with these 2 guys so we can make a great 3. And then it finally happens. And then I actually thought that all the votes were going to go for Shubal. So I was like, this is finally my chance to really bond with Andy, and then me and Andy can go forward once Shubal gets out. Obviously, then all the votes switched to him. But yeah, I really wanted to work with those 2 guys. I thought they were great shields for me, and I needed them. But I also just love the way both of them play.
Hey, respect.
Yeah. Well, Andy, thank you for keeping things entertaining and certainly keeping everyone on their toes all day. It was a pleasure to. You certainly left your mark on the season. So cannot. No one can take that away from you.
Could wish for nothing more. So appreciate it.
Well,
I'm gonna go back. My favorite player of the whole season, just to let you know. I think I told you that, but.
Love. Thanks, man.
Love this. Heartwarming.
Thanks, guys.
See you, Andy. Let's go. I guess, Chris, we haven't really asked you anything, so I had one question for you that we kind of touched on earlier, but it does fit that you haven't talked a lot because for some reason you probably came in as like literally the biggest target in the game, and yet your name did not come up until I don't know, what round did your name first come up? Like 7, if that even that. I honestly don't even know. How did that happen?
So I knew coming in that I was probably going to have the biggest target outside of maybe Holly, Victoria, or Katie.
And I wanted to completely flip my game because everyone knows like I'm like a super, super aggressive player, like very open about making moves and targeting people. And I wanted to flip it to the game where I was kind of just like laid back and not really targeting people, so people wouldn't be targeting me, and kind of just seeming like I was going with the flow. And it worked out because the one person pre-game I like really thought I wanted to work with was Steve, and that's the exact game Steve was playing. So it was like perfect for the two of us to just like link up and do that. I don't know. I don't really know why people didn't target me earlier. I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, I'll tell you personally, I didn't target you because I wanted to go to the end with you and beat you and prove my superiority. Dead ass. I was like, I'm going final 2 with Chris Thomas, and I'm gonna fucking win. So that's why I told you. I said CT and Vic, let's go final 3. I'm so down. So down, it's not even funny. But you know, the cookie didn't crumble that way, but maybe one day. Maybe one day.
One of these days.
I muted on the stream. One thing I thought that helped you was I feel like in long games, you know, sometimes you get bored, and that's when you start to really want to just like start some chaos. And I think I told the host this. I was like, Chris Thomas won't be overly chaotic because it'll be so fast. So was that true? Did keeping it, you know, all to one day and moving so quickly, did that help you not go into some of your maybe more destructive impulses?
Yeah, for sure. It's just so fast. Like you can't really sit there and like think of this like grand master plan where like all these people are gonna get blindsided, like whatever. Because you can't really blindside people in this format anyway, which is something that I think kind of bothered me. But I don't know. I guess.
Yeah, it flared up a little bit when you like gave me the idol and were like, let's get something crazy going, or the immunity I meant, and they were like, let's try to get something crazy going for the fans here. I was like, all right, let's do it.
And it worked. I can't believe it worked.
But it was a good play. It was a good play. It wasn't just reckless to be reckless, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, that goes to the I was watching today, and Holly said like, I'm just trying to play a transparent. I don't know where Holly must have just fallen asleep. You said like, I'm trying to play a transparent game, or Holly said that, and you were like, it's hard not to. And I guess that probably everyone left here was pretty transparent with basically everyone, I think, right? Like that's almost maybe the top. Like, except for moments when you didn't need to be, but I would say that probably all of you left felt like you were playing a similar game like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, just because you don't like know where you're going to end up with in the breakout rooms, you can't really control like a blindside, unless you just like perfectly land in a bunch of breakout rooms. But I don't think that would ever happen.
Yeah, I think one of the questions you asked earlier, Austin, was like, what was the biggest difference? Is like basically everyone who was on the chopping block, their name got brought up at Tribal, and like everyone kind of had like a last ditch effort. There really wasn't a time where someone, except if someone got idled out, where they like they hadn't heard their name at all, and then all of a sudden they got like every vote or something like that. But there was ways to not lie but not be transparent, for sure. I think I liked doing that. When people were like, Steve, where are you leaning? And I would just try to talk my way for like 30 seconds, not answer the question, and then ask someone else a question and make sure no one called me out on it.
Steve, so I feel like you were playing. I feel like you were playing the windshield game, in that like you could see out, but you were like a pro at just deflecting. You just deflected and had stuff fly.
That was the play, man. I didn't want, whether it was a breakout room or a tribal, I didn't want anyone to go into like the next breakout rooms to be like, oh, I'm mad at Steve for throwing my name out, or I heard Steve was putting this name out there in the last breakout room. You know, because what I saw early on was those were the people, like people were coming in and being like, oh, in the last breakout, like Andy was putting out this name, or like Shubal was putting out this name. And then people were like, oh, maybe we should go for those guys. But the people who were like not throwing names out weren't targets early. So I was like, all right, I'm just never going to try to not ever throw a name out, basically. So but yeah, at Tribals, I was trying to not like stick my flag in the ground and say, I'm voting for this person, or I think we should go here. Because then it just, everyone who you go against, or if you're wrong, then you have a big target on your back the next round.
I wanted to ask Rue a question, because it was around we're at 8 and 9 and stuff, and we talked a little bit about Katie's push to kind of divide things from go against Gen 1, and I think we could touch more on that. But Rue, within that group, you seemed like had very close connections with Swale, Katie, well, I don't know about Santi, actually. Maybe I'm not Santi yet. And then Steve was kind of developing around this time. So my deepest question is, like, which one was the closest? Which one was your real ride or die?
Gotta be honest, Rue.
This is hard. Okay. So Katie and Soleil, they were probably the original ride or die. But later on, I was like, I need someone on the other side. Like, I wasn't talking to like the Steve and the CT. So I was like, okay, when Steve was open, I was like, okay, let me get Steve under my belt. So once I got Steve, I kind of lost loyalty to Katie. I'm not going to lie, because once I had Steve, I was like, okay, if there is a final three, I'm going to take Steve before Katie, unfortunately. That's what I was thinking in the back of my head. So once I got Steve in the back of my head, I was like, okay, he can take me if he wants to. Soleil will take me if he wants to. And Katie will take me if she wants to. So I was loyal to Katie and Soleil first, but then later on, it was Soleil and Steve.
I worked hard to prove my loyalty, Rue. You know, as I flipped from the Brian vote, and then I gave you some of those gold coins in the coin challenge, and then I think the vote that Holly went out, I told you I was voting for Vic and held strong the whole way. And I know you were trying to flip some stuff around, but I was like, I don't know what's happening at the travel, but I'm gonna just show her that my word is what is my word for her, and hopefully that helped. I mean, that was the play, because then I was like, at that point, I had decided you and CT I was just gonna ride with, and if I got backstabbed by y'all, then that happens. But there was also a time, Katie, that I thought like you and I were like this, and then like it was like it flared up so quickly, and then it died down like immediately. I was like, oh yeah, like Katie and I are gonna rock this, and then like the next vote we like didn't vote together. I was like, oh yeah, okay, cool, that didn't work out.
We didn't have a lot of opportunities like in breakouts after that. I definitely felt good. Like Steve was definitely one of the people that I felt I could work with coming into the game too, because I was like, he's kind of like an outsider Gen 1, and it's like low key, like people won't really be like thinking about him like as a person to vote out right away. But then there was a point where it was like, I think final 6 or 7 where like Steve was kind of riding the middle better than I was, because I had like actively gone for Schubel, and I was like, I don't like that like Steve's taking this middle spot, because like I want to be in the power position. So that's when I threw your name out, but I didn't get enough traction. Like there wasn't enough time, and that was when like CT blasted me. So
yeah, I think
that was my only chance I could go for you, really.
That was when I heard that you put my name out, and I was like, oh, that's cold. That hurts me deeply.
But it was good. That was good that it didn't actually go, because you had an idol, and so then like I would have just been.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was ready to use the idol. Like I didn't tell a single person the entire game that I had the idol. So I was like, as soon as I hear my name, and like there's even a chance, or like someone else might play an idol, like then I might get outed out because I'm gonna get a vote. I'm gonna play it, and that was the only time that really I popped up. But I think then I talked to Rue and CT after, and they were like, nah, no one's seriously going for you guys. And I was like, all right, I'm trusting it.
Yeah, for sure.
Can we say something about like the Rue's and Steve alliance? Like I know Anders mentioned this like after that was like the most unexpected alliance like whatsoever. And for me, like knowing Rue like personally outside the game, that's probably like again really the least person I would have expected with. And so we'd be in breakout rooms coming in. And
you're white, dude. Sorry about it. It's because you're a white man, Steve. I really thought I had Rue. I was like, she works with a white man out here, really? I was so bad.
Not only that, like their generation is like, okay, like Steve existed, like, you know, he's the originals, you know, he's like a Tom Westman, like an oldie, you know what I mean? And then Rue, I'm like, you know, I hope she watched some of the season, hope she's hip about these players. But then like you see this connection like across so many like seasons. And then so Rue would be in a breakout room with me, and I'm so excited. I was like, so what's happening? Right? And she'd be like, well, Steve said this, Steve said that. I was like, why does Steve, like in my head I'm thinking like, why does Steve's matter? Like I didn't know he was that strongly like connected, right? For me, I just saw Steve like, you know, cruising through the game, and I'm like, okay, if we're going after Gen 1s, well, he's maybe not the biggest one we need to worry about yet and whatnot. And then at the end, you know, Steve's at the end, right? And I'm thinking like, who has a stronger case here? And like, I'm obviously, I only know about my game as best as I can. But then I went back and watched some of Steve's like moments, right? And I'm like, right? And I'm like, okay, he won. Why did he win, right? And I saw the idol play after he got the idol with the, you know, Family Feud or Tribal Feud, whatever. and that there was a breakout room just 2-2-2-2, and then there was a breakout room between Rue and Steve, and I think that's when he turned it on. He was like, he came in, he was like, final two, I was like, that was like, maybe he built it up, yeah, but I think that's when he like locked in. I was like, okay, this guy won, great. I think that's when he turned it up.
Yeah. Once I got the idol, I was like, okay, this is my play. Like, and I thought I was gonna have to use it. And I thought very hard about using it for CT. Like, I literally was going back and forth last second, and then I was like,
you should have used it on me.
I know. I got to answer for my crimes tonight. I know.
I actually think it was definitely the right play for you not to play that on me.
I mean, once we got to final six, I was looking around. I was like, I don't know. I don't think I can beat Katie and Chris. Rue and Swally, like, your game was much more low key from what I saw. Like, hearing back, I was like, yeah, like, you guys played a hell of a game, but I knew Katie and Chris had such a strong following. And then I made the play to get Vic out to like prove, basically as soon as we went to the double vote, I just jumped in first and was like, look, I'm not voting CT. You guys can go Rocks or we can vote Vic. And everyone was just like, oh, okay, yeah, let's go Vic. So at that point I was like, CT, that's my move for him. Rue, dropping final two. I picked up the idol and I was like, all right, this is how I'm going to skate my way in. And I knew I didn't want Katie at the end with me because she was throwing my name out and she had a strong game. So that kind of just worked out nicely.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have a ton of time left, so I want to jump into kind of your game and Rue and Swale too, and everyone else. Don't worry, but we'll go a little quicker. But I thought that the final, a couple of decisions you made, I guess like you and Rue especially had so much direction in your game after Final 8, where like you could see it very clearly. And I don't know as much. Swale might have also. I didn't get to witness it as much from what I was looking at. But you there was a lot of controversy in the comments at the final 6 vote that you didn't push it to Rocks to try to break up that alliance. And in the final tribal, you I know, Katie, I know. Don't worry, I'm getting there. But in the final tribal, you said that the idol thing was your best move, and you've told me basically that you blacked out of that final tribal, which we can talk about. But I think the best move that was controversial at the time was that final 6 push to get out Victoria and lock that in.
So I mean, yeah, it was really a no-brainer. It's so hard to build trust in this game. And I was like, Chris just gave me a big trust move. I'm going to return it right here and show from there. Because you can't, count on whoever's going to be in your breakouts from there. I was kind of like, as long as me, CT, and Rue can stay like strong, I can play my way through this. But I also didn't like, when Rue played the friend idol on Swale, I was caught a bit off guard because I like was not aware to the closeness of their relationship and their alliance. So I was like, oh, okay, I need to like watch my back here a bit and keep an eye out for Swale as well, because Rue's clearly playing harder, and Swale's playing hard too. And they, because I don't think Swale, you and I ever like got it in a room with just the 2 of us, or even just the 3 of us, where we were like, let's do it. It was never like animosity, but we certainly never were like, all right, let's work together. So I don't know.
That was
I didn't see it as a
by the way, between Swale and Rue. I thought that was really, really great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Swale, probably one of your best moves of the game. I love that move so much. Rue, great way to use that friend idol to keep yourself safe. I didn't even think of it. So I just want to applaud you guys. Sorry.
I just wish we used it better, though. That's the one thing I regret in terms of the game. I was like, I wish we directed it to someone who could, like,
Yeah, I think the best move would have been like I would have give you my immunity, and then you would have played Drido. I would actually stop you because Santi and I had made it clear that round. Like, it was Santi and Holly. I would say stop, don't play it on me. Like, get up, like say play it on Santi, and then it wouldn't have come down to the last vote between the Santi and Holly. And I like the Holly vote was like. It came very close, and at that point, it would have come close if Santi was immune.
I want to pivot to Santi real quick because he's been left out of the conversations for a bit. But I feel like watching back the stream today, you were playing a really smart game and were positioned really well in that like misfits grouping and kind of underneath the target of Katie. What was your journey like? And if you had not gotten idled out that round, where did you think it was going?
Yeah, I found myself in a weird spot. I think I was in the middle of that alliance, which I felt really good about. but I also felt like I couldn't find a number one. I knew that Swale and Rue had a great relationship. I wasn't sure if I was thinking it might be Swale or Katie, but Katie just has so many relationships as well that it's hard to know where her head's at. And for the longest time, I kept finding myself wanting to work with Steve. But I was like, Steve just has like all, he says he's with me, but then it doesn't follow up. So I think that was one of the challenges, was trying to figure out who am I really going to stick with. And I would have loved to go with Katie all the way till Final 5, but I think I was deeply aware of the fact that I would never beat Katie on a final tribal. And so that's when I would have wanted to take, Swale and Steve to the final. And so that's really where I wanted to go. I knew Rue was going to be a threat as well. And so I wasn't sure how long I wanted to keep her around. But that's kind of what I was thinking about. But as far as like Holly, CT, I really didn't think I was on their radar as far as wanting to take me. And I had no real intentions of wanting to work with them down the line.
So I do have a question, because I noticed that the grouping of you, Katie, Rue, and Swale were all the Gen 2, but it was never labeled as a Gen 2 group. It was labeled as Misfits. Was the formation, was the creation, was the continuation of it based at all on the Gen 2, or did it just happen that everyone who wasn't working with Gen 1 happened to be Gen 2 at that point?
Yeah, I honestly, at least I don't know for them. I didn't think about it that way. It's weird because although there's these generations, what the fans I think might not know is that it goes well more beyond the game and what kind of relationships you have outside the game. And I know there's like certain people in Generation 2 that I got to know outside of the game, Katie and Swale being one of them. But for example, Rue and I, we've never played together. We've never spoken outside the game. So that was one of the ones that just kind of happened by coincidence. So I don't know if that answers your question now.
Yeah, I would like to say the same thing. It came down to like the individual relationship, like towards Katie, towards Santi, towards Rue. Like we didn't really feel like we had to umbrella ourselves under like a Gen 2. And at that point, amongst the Gen 1s, like who was really extending themselves towards like really picking up Steve declared himself like, okay, I'm going to work with you, Rue. Like nobody was willing completely to declare themselves to work with us. And that's when, we had to target the nucleus of the Gen 1s, which was like, in the Victoria, the Holly, and one, then that's when the separations started happening.
Santi, I just want to say you were my number one, dude. Like, Rue was also my number one, but, like, Rue always had Swale, like, Steve and Christy. Like, everyone had their little pairs, and I didn't have anyone. And I was like, Santi, now that Doug's gone, it's just you and me. We're going to make it to the end.
You know what it was, Katie? You know what it was when you picked Victoria during the partner thing? Because I thought you were my number one, and when you picked Victoria, I was like, oh.
Dude, that was strategic. That was so strategic, because I knew she was coming for me, because I think someone had mentioned it, or I just already knew, like, her and I have always had tension, like, we just have such different playing styles. So I purposely picked her just to, like, try and, like, bring her to my side again, because I always knew, like, you and I were good. But remember that feud with the Jib Jab challenge? I was, like, rooting for you so hard, even though, like, I lost against you, and it was just, like, that back and forth, and I was like, yes, go, Santi, go! I was very much on your side during that back and forth.
Also, shout out to whoever made those Jib Jab videos, because they were very good. And I feel like someone probably spent a lot of time on this.
All credit for all things goes to JS.
I do have a question about the partners for the Family Feud challenge. To me, they felt very random, but I don't know if there was a lot. Obviously, for Katie, it was strategic, but what about for everyone else?
Mine was strategic, similar sense where Katie chose someone else. Like I wanted to choose someone that I want to build like a relationship with, which was Chris, because he just had lost Struble. He was losing people, so I feel like, all right, I need to just like declare something with someone on the opposite side. And I feel like I didn't have my number one. And I feel like when you have a number one, you want someone that's like gets a different side of information. And I feel like me and Santi could have been number ones, but we're like we ran the same, we ran the same circle. So it's like we weren't getting new information to bring it to each other. So I needed some to extend myself out.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is where I was continuing to try to build a relationship with Rue. So I know we paired up together. We got our butts kicked in Family Feud, but we still had a good time.
I think I were just the rejects. So
I know, me and Holly, last picks.
Oh,
I
had known.
Well, it was interesting because it was like, oh, just like pick your teams. Like there wasn't like, oh, this person picks first. So like everyone's kind of just like, I don't know, like someone can pick me or I can take the lead. So
I honestly,
was
I didn't really
interesting.
care. I didn't really care where I ended up with because I didn't want to reveal who I'm closest with right off the bat, which I thought people would take it as. So I was fine just sitting there and being last pickings and getting whatever I got.
Let me run through. I'm going to try to run through everyone up to the finalists, a couple quick hitter questions, and then focus a little bit on the finalist games, and then we'll call it a night. So, Shubal, starting with you. Anything more you think you could have done? You were trying a lot at the end there, throwing out fake advantages and idols, and I know we know you got exposed by Rue a little bit. So, anything you think you could have done differently?
Well, like I wanted to play a more low-key game from the start, but then like I don't know if you guys talked about it earlier, but Lucas did something at Tribal about making big moves, and I immediately took that as like, oh, people want me out, so that's when I played the friend idol to save Andy, gain trust with him, and also protect me just in case people went for me. So like I think from that moment on, I could no longer play a low-key game, and I had to play like this hardcore Shubal game, which like makes me a big target. And it's very exhausting. So like if I could have pushed that off till later, that would have been really nice. And I talked about not voting Katie that one time. That was a mistake. And I think so. The whole Rue thing, like the plan was to just tell Rue that information, confuse her. Hopefully, she got in a room with Commander Katie. They made a plan to split votes, and then thinking they had Holly and Victoria, and then Holly and Victoria actually vote with me and Chris and mess something up. It was a long shot, especially in this format, but that was the plan. So like when I was exposed at Tribal, like I only told that to Rue. Like I think she thought I was telling everybody else that, but it was only for it to get back to Katie. Like it wasn't anything against Rue. It was just like, so I think my other biggest mistake, I guess, besides when Andy played the idol not voting Katie, would be I just being confused about the challenge. I thought that the last 3 of the last 4 people would all have a vote on them. And so I would be the obvious vote, but I would be able to make a move on people. But being the only one with a negative vote just put me in such a big hole that I just don't think I could have recovered from that. So I think a big mistake was playing that challenge poorly, not understand the rules.
I just also want to say
number of outcomes, but I just want to applaud. I don't know if it was mentioned. I want to applaud Holly's gameplay during that challenge. It was really smart. She just went to every room and was like, "Hey, we want to go after Shubal, right, guys? Give me the negative anti coins." And then she had like every single anti coin, and she got immunity. So that was the best gameplay there.
Yeah, I knew the only other person that I think would have been ballsy enough to try that game plan would have been Shubal. So I'm just happy I edged it out. So
Shubal, I just wanted to say I appreciated your closing line of "At Brady Camps there are no liars." As somebody who has a personal Brady Camps connection, I really vibe with that. Holly, for you, I had a question. Well, I guess starting off, like I thought this was one of your best games you've ever played. Like I actually thought for a lot of it you were just like super in control, but not over the top. And you just were like really effortlessly flowing through it. How did you feel going through it?
I felt like I was playing really well. I was really blown when I got out because I definitely thought that I had a plan and it was starting to come together, even with me and Vic talking about getting Katie out within the next few rounds. Like things were starting to really come together, and I thought that I was just doing really well. I thought my social game was just doing good. But I'm also not a stranger to this online format. I play a lot of orgs. I played Sequester. You know, I've done like a lot of this, so I kind of am used to how this flows and how this works. So I do think that gave me a little bit of an advantage.
Yeah, was there anything in particular you felt like helped you? I was going to ask about sort of those experiences too. Anything in particular in this format that you thought worked really well for you?
I just think the fact that I am an aggressive strategic game player, but I like to mask it with my social game. So it's like I like to think people will enjoy having a conversation with me while I'm also getting across the point that of what I want to happen, but it doesn't seem like I'm like down your throat, this is what needs to happen next. So I think it was just like combining of me being like right out of the gate, I'm very willing to be like, hey, here's what I'm thinking. Like, what do you think about that type of thing? I don't pussyfoot around it, I guess. which helps with things like this when you might only have 2 minutes in a room with people.
Totally agree with that. And my last question is, how was your sleep?
Guys, I'm so sorry. I feel like JS hates me. I am so sorry. I genuinely had 2 hours of sleep. I'm sure when you saw me first get on camera at the very beginning of the day, like my hair was soaking, wringing wet. I had just gotten out of the shower. I just got home from the night before, jumped in the shower, was 10 minutes late, hopped on the Zoom call, dripping wet like a wet dog. Like I was like bone tired from being in the sun all day and been drinking for 2 days straight. And I'm really, really sorry, but the sleep slapped. So.
The best thing would have been if you had been so tired you were falling asleep during the game at like Final Four and you got medevaced.
Probably would have been too. I'd be like in front of the camera. Also, I just want to say I'm really upset that I did get out the round that I did because I would have won that next immunity challenge. So it was another memory, and I was very blown about that.
Yeah, plus you would have loved saying F. Chris LeCompte, F. Steve Sleesman, I'm sure. So.
Oh yeah, it would have been a whole show. Very
Holly, from what you've heard, who would you have voted for between the final three of Steve, Swally, and Rue? From what you've heard today, if you got to vote now.
I followed along as best as I could before I fell asleep. So I did have an inkling of what was going on. And I would have voted for Steve.
Yeah, you would have been really sad if I lost by one vote.
Yeah, no, I think I would have voted for Steve. With Rue I would have maybe voted for Rue. But those would have been what it came down to. But I think I would have went with Steve.
Yeah, Holly did proactively send us a list after a couple of rounds, but ultimately so much happened in final tribals, so we didn't want to, not have somebody see all of it. Chris Thomas, for you, final five, I feel like was your, even though the last few rounds before that you were really doing the CT clawing from the bottom thing, but that final five pitch was, I think, a very defining moment and pretty crazy to watch. What was going through your mind there, and did you think you had a shot?
Going into that challenge, I thought it was pretty obvious it was going to be me or Katie, and then she completely dominated me in that challenge. But it was the only option. I asked Rue and Swale. I told Swale, I was like, I think your best chance at winning this game is if you make a move on Rue, because you're missing the big move on your resume. And he kind of entertained it, but it didn't really seem interested. Rue at least just straight up was like, yeah, I'm voting for you, which I respected.
That never made sense to me. I just played along.
Yeah, I didn't expect either of you to go for it, but I had to try. So the only logical situation was to go to Katie. And the shitty part for me and Katie, I guess, is I knew she wasn't going to believe me. But if she had saved me, I actually would not have voted for her at Final Four.
I think in that round in Final Five, also Steve came at the end was like, would you entertain doing Swally, voting on Swally? Because I think if you had understood the strength of Rue's and Steve's relationship, maybe it would have benefited you to go after me rather than go after Rue.
Katie, would you have voted for Swally? Maybe. More likely than Rue, at least.
At that time, yeah, because I didn't know that Rue was working with you, Steve. If I had known in hindsight, I would have wanted to go for Rue, but
I asked you about Swally though.
Yeah, but even so, I told you, Chris, I told you offline. I was just being I just knew the whole story of you having a crazy arc, and I didn't really want you to win. And I was like, if I can't win, then it definitely sure as hell can't be CT. So I was like, it's okay if Steve or Rue or Swale wins. And so that was kind of just a selfish decision on my part. But
we could have come to the end and made a great final tribal.
I know. If I could redo that, even if I didn't know the dynamics with Rue and Swale, I definitely would have taken you up on it and just probably tried to go with you and Steve and Rue to the end, just because likely there would be at least one other person I could try to pitch against,
Yeah. Okay. I didn't expect you to vote with me. It's not like you shocked me. Yeah. I just had to give one dying plea, I guess.
No, it was great though. I wish I entertained it more at the time. I think if I had more time, I was feeling so rushed. JS was like, are you guys ready to vote? And then I was like, yeah. But I wish I asked for another minute or two.
Yeah, my thing was like, if you guys had things to say, we were gonna keep it going. If you guys were just like me, I was like, well, no one wants to watch that shit. Let's vote. And like Austin and Anders and Jack and Drew were like, speed this up, end this stuff. Oh, don't stop them. And you know, we were all kind of discussing that stuff. So if you wanted to keep going, guys, that was fine by us. But yeah, I feel like a lot of you guys definitely use tribal to advantage. Some of you guys, and there are people in this room, used it very poorly. Like every time, like saying, "This is who we're going after," and then that person would exactly immediately play the idol. We didn't really touch on Katie's play there at Final 6, right? Yeah, Final 6. You played the idol because everyone was like, "Yeah, we're voting for you," and I loved it. It was so fun.
I really didn't want to have to play it.
Final 6 was a lot more complex than what we saw because you know everything goes by fast, and Katie, like the format of going fast, Katie thinks maybe she could lie about her last vote and get away. And to be honest, I actually trusted Katie the whole time, and although I knew she lied, I was like, I can still work with Katie. And then Chris T comes out and he's like, I think he's like, we gotta get Katie out. This is around right. And I'm like, is he really? Am I really convinced or no? But then at the tribal, we're going straight at Katie, and let's say we all voted Katie, it would have been her one vote taking out Chris Thomas, right? And I think I should have spoke out more that round because I think I was listening a lot, but it was Victoria had to play her idol right before, and I tied it with one vote with Victoria, and I think Victoria tried to talk about this in the Final 6, but that was a lot of things happening very fast in like 30 minutes or like even less. I don't even know.
Yeah, that's the tough part. Like, it's so hard to get organized, and if you coming out of a breakout room in a tribal and it wasn't 100% sure where everyone was going behind, there's like this fear that like there's not enough momentum behind one player. And so the only opportunity to do that is tribal. And obviously for me, that came back to bite me in the butt. But like at that moment when I said Victoria, I was like, I've heard 2 names. There's no way like we're gonna have enough votes unless somebody says something at tribal. So when she said, "Oh, I'm coming for you, Santi," that was like, I felt like that was the only thing that was to be done.
And even with the Katie,
oh, go ahead, Ruth.
now I was saying, even with the Katie vote going into it, I was actually, Steve was saying, "Oh, would you be willing to do Swale?" And at this point, I was ready to cut ties with Swale, so I was actually gonna vote Swale. And then when we went into the tribal, everyone was saying Katie, 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 and I'm like, what the hell? I thought we were doing Swale. So then that's when I flipped to. And that's when I flipped to Katie once I saw it was like the communal thing.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I feel like I had to expect that from tribal, and that was definitely a good move on CT. But I felt like his pitch was like a little faulty in that he didn't realize I had already told Rue and Swale that I did lie to Victoria in a different breakout room. So like they already knew I lied about it, that I was just like covering my butt. And but it was, yeah, I mean, I definitely felt like I was in the hot seat where I was like, oh, I probably have to play my idol, although I wanted to wait till Final 5. Though I was hoping I wouldn't like need to use it at all. But yeah, I actually really appreciated though, like at tribals, that like Santi was one of the few people that I felt were more vocal about who the vote was for, because I felt oftentimes like I had to do that in order to rally the group, and I didn't want to seem like a ringleader at all. And so it was nice when like Santi was willing to kind of just like throw the name out there and like put his neck on the line for the group sort of thing.
Yeah, it's a really effective strategy just until it wasn't, when idols eventually were going to rear their head. I only have like 5-ish more minutes, so I want to just ask a few more questions of the Final 4 because I don't know why. I mean, you guys were the Final 4, so I don't want to shortchange you. So let me just get right into those. Katie, starting with you. You were so worried talking to me coming into the game, and I guess it didn't exactly unfold how you expected that way. You were, I mean, I think a lot of people would say probably the most dominant player over the course of the game. I don't want to say that because I think that all 3 of the finalists played really smart games within that, and so did a lot of people, but you were really the forerunner in that Final 4. If you had got to the end, it seemed like. What went right for you? Why did it go so differently from how you thought? Did it go how you thought it would? What are your thoughts?
I mean, it definitely went wildly differently than I thought that it would. I was so scared of being first boot. I know there were so many other bigger threats in the game, but I guess I just never played this virtual sort of game, so I didn't know how I could survive it. And then also, given that like first tribal, if Gen 2 did go, I felt like it was easy to like take me out. And so I was just like nervous. I feel like there's a lot of people have a lot of confidence in me, but I never have confidence in myself. And that feels like a lot of pressure, just internally knowing like people have high expectations and like I don't want to disappoint. But I think like once I got past like that initial wave of tribals, I felt a little better. And it was just like, you had to take things round by round, at least in this game, because things moved so fast. But just like always thinking like writing out like where people stand in the game and having that like, you know, higher level picture helped me kind of get to where I did. But it was also thanks to the advantages from like the fans too. Like I definitely wouldn't have made it without that. So I was super, super thankful to everyone who had donated for me.
Swallow, you popped back in right at the right time. For you, when I was watching back today, I thought like something that you're always so good at is really analyzing quick situations and coming up with like creative approaches and ideas really quickly. And I think that's one of your biggest skills. How did you feel going through it, and why don't you think that you got more votes at the end?
I think it's interesting because at the end I was in everybody's like cool zone. Like I was in the range, but not close enough to earn like the votes. And I think Steve had a leg up coming in. I mean, it's not it's just he's a Gen 1 jury members probably were leaning his way. They would have to have a strong claim to vote Rue or myself. And then Gen 1 players, obviously more, I think all of them, probably almost all of them were almost on the jury, right? So I think that's probably answers, I mean, I don't think too much into why I didn't get a lot of votes or anything. But that was one reason. I think, and I think I decided there were like throughout the game, even when we were at the tribal, I would like intentionally call out like Andy and Shubal, try to compliment them, whatever. I was trying to do my jury management, but like it wasn't working whatsoever. I was gonna be always somebody's second favorite or third favorite, like regardless. So I felt like I was like, just always gonna be a good player, but like I wasn't strong and aggressive like some of my peers here.
Well, it's definitely also not like you played like a 0 vote game. Like in the jury chat, I think Katie and Shubal, I'm sure, can agree with like the votes. People were talking about all three of you flipping back and forth throughout Final Tribal a lot, and Asanti's here too. Yeah, like you played a really good game. So I'm glad you're not thinking too much about it, because it wasn't like people were like, Swale, what did he do? Like that's not the case at all.
Yeah, that's all accurate, Swale.
When Steve was making those like terrible answers, I was like, guys, I think I just switched to Swale. Like, how can the idol be your best and worst move at the same time? Like, I was so over it. But then Chris ended up, I think, helping save you in the end with basically telling you to stop with the bullshit and just tell the real reason. I just wish that Swale and Rue would have talked more about Final 6. Like, they had this secret close relationship with Steve, to the fact that he could have pushed it to Rocks, but he decided to just let Victoria go because their connection with Steve was strong. So I think that would have been a great way to kind of tie in their great social game with helping or turning out to be a strategic move in the end. So I just wish they talked more about something like that. And I think I definitely could have been swayed off Steve to go one of those two, for sure.
Well,
yeah.
Oh, go ahead,
Can I say something? When this tribal started, I mean, the final tribal council started, I was like, okay, I need to get my best answers. And for me, if people are blacking out different tribals, that was where I was kind of blacking. I was like, it was happening so fast. And also whoever gets more donations gets an extra vote. So I'm like, people like donate right now, whatever, right? And then I'm giving my best answers. And then I'm so I'm so like encouraged to go after Steve. Like, sometimes people like just like pitching their case, but then sometimes you want to attack somebody's case, right? And for me, I had no clue about like a lot of Steve's game. And I was like, okay, because I know he's giving some answers like, playing an idol, being a, risky or whatnot. Like, I was like, I think that's completely the opposite. And when I wanted to go after him, but then I also didn't want to split votes between me and Rue, because I was like, if I was going to get beat, maybe Rue would beat me. And I think the final 6, yes, sure. I think the final 6, I too hadn't like unpacked the whole situation, where I didn't know how to really frame it, like how I really was a wedge in that final 6 vote, where, I stopped a big Katie move. And then I maybe I tied it with Victoria, and then obviously with the help of everybody else, like tied Victoria again and got her out. I mean, maybe I could have claimed that move a lot better, where Katie, where I guess, yeah, happening fast, and I think votes could have switched, but I think Steve came in a leg up with a lot more Gen 1, so it was his votes to lose.
The final tribal is really hard, and it's hard to unpack all that. However, Rue, I don't know how much you followed the comments after the game ended or anything, but I mean, even just without the comments, like I was so impressed by, I think we all were, by you being able to contextualize your game so well in the final tribal and really handle those questions. Were you feeling good at that point? Like what? Because you were slaying it.
I was feeling good. I mean, just to add on to Shubal's thing, but me and Swale and Steve never really even had a conversation. It just happened to happen at the end of it. So it wasn't anything we could like play on. But I was pretty confident because I was like, okay, I had this whole scenario. I started from the bottom, not knowing anyone, having to develop relationships, knowing when to say certain things, and I felt pretty strong going into it. I felt like I had a good social game. Like it was like I was working with Katie, I was working with Swale, I was working with Steve, I was working with Holly and Victoria at one point. So it was like, okay, I feel like in terms of social game, I felt like I was the best amongst the three, but I was not.
Hey, it was very close, and I don't think it's. I mean, I think there's an argument to be made for any of you winning, so I wouldn't overthink that. But it was really just so cool to watch you because I hadn't seen, like, I was graduated by that point when you were playing, and like you even said, like, you hadn't seen a lot of the seasons, and so we're very new coming into this, probably more than anybody else in this game. But I felt like you really kept picking up steam and getting more and more comfortable as you really build those relationships. How are you feeling as it went on? Did it go how you expected? What was your journey like through the game?
I'll say it didn't go as I expected. I honestly thought I was going to be out earlier. I didn't really have high expectations going into it. Like similar to other people, I didn't really know how this Zoom thing was going to work. But I would say at the beginning of my game, I did definitely play a quiet game because I didn't want my name to be out there. But as I kept going and I started to mingle and create connections, that's when I felt comfortable. Like, okay, start to say people's names in terms of like intimate conversations rather than in a big group setting. But yeah.
Well, I listened to your confessional that we had like around merge time too, or right after Andy left, and you were like, now that Andy's left, now it's my time to start building a resume. So I felt like you really had a good grip on what your positioning was and what you were thinking. How did it feel in the end to get that fan vote and a lot of fan support pushing those votes for you?
It felt good. It felt good. If I were to redo my game again, I wish I did like go back to that confessional in terms of building my resume. I felt like towards the end of my game, I was starting to like lose like the steam I had in terms of like, okay, making big moves. But it was good to have the fan vote. It's good to see people notice the social aspect of my game.
Yeah, they definitely did. And last but not least, Steve, our winner. You played after 7 years, and you never, said you never wanted to test your 1-0 record, put it to the test. So how did it feel getting back in there and doing it?
Listen, I'm no stranger to never being the fan favorite, but you don't always have to have the sexy plays. You just have to win. So I'm happy to be 2-0. I didn't think I'd ever come back and play, but with the pandemic, everything is crazy. So I'm glad I did. Obviously, it was a hell of a day, a lot of fun. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a very different game, very different players than who I played with 7 years ago. Where some of the people were hard to get a hold of, and there was different levels of engagement at that time until you really got to merge. Here it was like an all-star cast of all-stars, it felt like. So I felt a bit overwhelmed early on, but then settled into my role from there. And I'm not going to go back and watch whatever I said in the first travel, at the final travel, but I still stand by my call of that the idol was the riskiest and best play. If I lost Chris Thomas's vote, then I lose the game, right? So, but if I don't do that, I lose the game anyways. So I won because I made that play, but all I needed to do was lose Chris Thomas's vote to lose anyways. So I stand by it. I knew in order to win the game, I needed to be sitting next to Swale and Rue at the end, or to have the best chance. In order to do that, Chris had to go home there, and I had to win. So, if I saved Chris Thomas, then that's probably looking at, I don't think I have a chance at winning. So by letting him go home, it was either first or fourth, basically, because I was pretty sure if I lost the next challenge, I was going home. So play to win, and it paid off. So whether I said it right or wrong in the final tribal, it is what it is. But I'll take my 2-0 record to the bank, and hopefully there's not another pandemic that brings me out to go for 3-0, because I got a good feeling I'd be first boot in the next round we played.
Yeah, I think it was the framing versus, because you basically were just like, it was so risky for me to play my idol. But I think the framing of putting yourself in the like not being able to win against Katie or Chris or together or whatever. Yeah, I think you summed it up well there. But let's not forget your other best move, which was singing High School Musical, breaking free early. I thought that was one of your stronger ones.
I thought I'd make a fan or two, but they're just determined to not be happy when I win. So 2013, 2020, it doesn't matter. But I still love y'all. It was an incredible day either way. Maybe when I go 3-0 next round, I'll get some respect. So.
Next time we won't make you.
One, Chris LeCompte has the Banner for Keys scholarship. I forgot
that he does.
But
that he does.
Wait, Steve, do you consider Steve attractive?
Yeah. I do consider Steve attractive. Not gonna lie.
Swally, you have a question.
I love Swally asking questions in the YouTube chat.
And he's right here. He could ask it.
I don't want to interrupt. I felt like Steve played a good game, especially looking back, like watching it back. I almost feel like he couldn't have played it any better than what he did to win, right? To get a vote. I almost want to say, do you feel like this game, although it's a different format, you played a bet like which game is better, like the season 2 or this online format?
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot different. I think this one played pretty well to my strengths. I mean, I got kicked in a lot of different challenges. Like, I was way outclassed. I thought I would be a lot better than I was, but I think I was able to like quickly make some good relationships with people. Like, I know Santi, you and I early on had a good connection. Rue and I, we had a good connection going, and like didn't make enemies. And in a game like this, where especially early on, it's all about momentum. You just need to keep your name out of people's mouths, and I felt like I was able to do that. In season 2, like it was like me and LeCompte were a super tight pair. Everyone knew we were making moves together. So like you kind of, it was very different because I didn't have a super tight pair like that the whole game where you're kind of making moves together. So I kind of, he was a bit more of a shield that game, whereas I kind of had to shield myself here by just playing it a bit more low key. But for me, I think it was just speak a lot, but say a lot of like nothingness. Like just like I would have like small talk in every single breakout room to like kind of pass the time. Because I think like a lot of people perceived Brian as like, well, he just never says anything. Like, what is he thinking? What's he doing? And then that he kind of like bit him. But I don't think anyone perceived me as like not playing hard because like I was always out there and active. I just never was like putting people's names out there.
I felt like you were like being like a moderator in the rooms, like facilitator of the conversations.
Yeah, every time. So what do you think? Oh, well, let me make sure, because it's going to break soon. Let me get your take too, because I don't want to lose you. And like, then I didn't have to put out my like line in the sand very often, unless it was like Chris and Rue or like Katie at the certain time when we were working close. I think Santi early on, you and I were pretty close. Like there were certain people I was like, all right, like this is the room that I can get real with versus this is a room I need to just like buy some time to get through, basically.
There's a question in the chat, and then I'll say basically if there's any other outstanding questions or things people want to say, but then I really got to run. So the question in the chat is, if it was a Chris, T, Katie, or Steve final 3, who would have won out of that? So people who are in the jury here, did you have a perspective?
I mean, we can try and do a count. I think Andy would have voted Chris.
And this is probably in a scenario
where Andy would have voted whatever you did,
I would have voted Chris, but I definitely would have considered. I could have flipped to Katie depending on like the speeches at Final Tribal. Like Steve, I think you played a great game, like so smooth. But if those two made it to the end, like I think it's between them.
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, and that was what I was going through. I was like, okay, if I play the idol on Chris, is it a big enough move to then where I could move above him in the final? And I was like, I don't think it is. Like, I think I'm just destined to not. So I totally agree.
Rue, Santi, and Swale, how would you guys would have voted?
I would have gone Katie because I feel like CT had by his own admission, had a very low key game for most of the time. It wasn't until the end that he started making moves, whereas Katie really went after different relationships from different ones and had, in my view, like more of a complete game.
I would say the same. It was Katie's vote. I would give my vote to Katie, but unless she lost it at like the answers, but probably more likely Katie than the other two.
Katie, what happened with the spoon in the quarter? Because I couldn't watch anyone, but I feel like that one went so quick. Like I was like getting settled in.
Same I just choked. I don't do well in those kind of moments when I'm on the spot. I knew that was like my only shot to win, but
You just did it at Final Five.
Yeah, I guess it's the squat.
Well, yeah, but then it was like endurance. It's just like, okay, suck it up. Don't be a baby. Like your leg's not gonna break if you stay on here for 20 more minutes. It was kind of like that, but the spoon was like uncontrollable, you know?
Yeah, spoon and quarter was total balance, and if you moved a tiny little bit, it's off. Like there was nothing you could do to save it. Wall, you could just like push a little harder and dig deeper.
Exactly. I was shaking in that too, though. I didn't know how much longer I could go. And I remember Chris told me that in All Stars, he was like, I will never let go of any endurance challenge. Like you were like, if it was me and Holly, we would have gone to like sunrise. And I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna be in for a treat here. I was surprised.
I literally didn't drop. I literally went until my legs collapsed.
I almost made it 1 foot.
Jeez, I would have died in a heartbeat.
That would have been hard.
One quick question.
Does anyone else have anything they want to say or ask each other?
Yeah, one quick question for Swale and Rue. If one of you guys had won that quarter challenge, who would you have taken to final, me or Katie?
Wait, was that Final Four? What
Yeah, it was Final Four or Final Four challenge.
That's a good question.
Yeah,
So,
that is.
I think the Final Three would have been the same for me because sorry, Katie, but the Final Three would have been still the same for me just because I also didn't know how well or how much the jury was leaning towards you going into Final Three. So, and also there was a point in Final Five where CT was like, hey, who do you want to take to the end? And I was like, I had to act like I didn't think about it. I was like, Steve, and then I was like, we said Final Three, but obviously I would just give one name and just left it at that. But I think Final Three would have been the same for me.
What about you, Rue?
What was the final three? I'm sorry, I got in.
If you had won the quarter balance challenge, would you have taken me or Katie to Final Three? Because I assume you and Swale would have taken each other and voted together.
I would have taken you just because Katie had the stronger game, especially in terms of Final Four. If I went to the end with Katie, I would even vote for Katie.
Actually, can I say something? First of all, I don't think we give enough credit for Rue. Rue actually brought the Final Three together. I work with Rue, and like Rue worked with Steve. So like, I think that's something she could have claimed a lot more at the Final Three because me and Steve were like, we were kind of like, we're bringing each other because we're like, we didn't know each other's game well enough to say, oh, that's anything. But with Katie also, maybe what I would have considered is I would have probably considered forcing a tie. Just to like earn Katie's vote, because I would have been desperate enough to say I need jury votes, but then if of course I would have want Katie to lose and go to the jury, but I would still like give her a chance.
Yeah, that's interesting. Interesting.
I just want to thank everyone for playing. I wasn't sure if we were gonna get some of the big Gen 1 names. We did. Gen 2 bigger names as well. We got them. I don't think it was mentioned a lot tonight, but Santi, you're really great. It was really fun watching you. Just want to make sure that was said. And
I want to throw out real quick. I actually think that Santi, if you had made it to the end, you said this earlier, if you had made it to the end with Katie, I would have voted for you over Katie. I thought you were playing a phenomenal game.
Appreciate that, man. Wow.
I don't know about that, but Katie's the best player ever. But no, Santi, you're really great.
Santi has Steve vibes too, the super likable guy that like you cannot hate. Like you have to vote for him if he does.
Unless you're Siona. Siona hates Santi, famously.
I can only hope.
No, that was a
Why?
joke. It was just.
Oh, okay.
I do think Santi is attractive, though. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, and then of course everyone who donated, that was really awesome, and it was just it became this huge thing. And now what we see online is some other orgs and bigger name organizations and smaller organizations are also trying to do great, things like this and trying to give back to community while having fun and being strategic and voting each other out. So hopefully, that continues and we started a movement because that's really what's important here. So thank you to all of you.
Yeah, Jay, you did awesome, man. Well done.
Yeah, props to JS.
You guys want to play next year?
Yes.
I don't. You're gonna have to ask me in a year from now. But
Steve will be
yeah,
hosting a challenge at least.
Yeah, I'll help for sure. I don't know. I think 2-0 is but you never say never, right? 7 years from now, we'll play again. We'll probably be like virtual reality, like where we'll like put a headset on and actually be on an island, like. But yeah, but no, it was fun. It was good catching up with everyone. So I'm glad I was played and meeting a lot of new people. I mean, I didn't know really after Katie, everyone after who played after her, I didn't really know. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well,
also, can we talk about the moderators and the host, including Jack and everybody that put in all the work? Props.
Yeah, honestly, it was
amazing.
I got the sense it took an army, and it was unbelievably smooth. Like just jumping to breakout rooms and the challenges. Like I don't think we had one hiccup, and I feel like in every one of the like actual Survivor Maryland ones, there's always like an actual hiccup. So kudos.
I felt like
I won't say any more, Chuck.
We made it through.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, no, Jack, Drew, Austin, Anders, all super amazingly helpful, and it was really fun to work with like such amazing, incredibly talented, creative hosts. Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, and Jack, we appreciate like all the promo. I don't know exactly what was happening, but like, all the donations and like, all that stuff. You know, it was ready for us. We're like, okay, all we have to do is promo, and of course that helped a lot getting all the donations.
And special shout out to all the players and anyone who's still watching. I don't know how many of you are left for using your networks and really showing the impact that Survivor can have. Really proud to say that we have donated over $18,000 and hoping that after matching and these last few coming in that we can make it 20K.
Have people been still donating?
We've gotten a few, 1 or 2 more.
Ooh, that's awesome. Thank you guys.
Sweet. Well, thanks to all of you for coming on and for everybody who was on before and departed us earlier, and also everyone who was watching, and I'm sure people will be watching Katie. Probably possible. But no, I'm not watching the stream, so that's at least one. But I'm sure people will watch after the fact, so hope you all enjoyed this and hearing everyone talk about their experience. Yeah, we as we've talked about, I think JS and I a little bit, this is in a sense was lightning in a bottle, and I don't think you can do this every week or so, but it was very fun to see, and who knows what we'll have coming down the line. Certainly season 7 on the horizon. We're still doing rewatches of Guts and Glory and maybe All-Stars after that, maybe New Beginnings, I have no idea. But yeah, thanks to all of you for coming on and everybody for being a part of this, and it was just so much fun. I'm still not over it.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
y'all.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
Seeing you again. Bye.
Talk to y'all soon.
Hopefully.